All right.
We're live.
We are live. Hello, everybody. This is our first ever live stream. The only other time we've done an in-person show was in Portugal, and
No,
we were in a sketchy hotel room.
no, that was in Portugal. That was the other one. That was Monero.
That was the other one. Oh, you're right. You're right. Monero. This is a different Monero conference.
I wasn't cool enough to make it to Portugal.
You did the live.
I had to stream in. Yeah,
You streamed in, but you still
It
talked,
was
which
like
is
6
cool.
in the morning on a Saturday for me.
Cool.
It was fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. So yeah, it was Miami. Thank you. And then it was actually a perfectly good hotel, but
Yeah.
The way it was
just
laid
not a good
out.
setup.
Yeah, our setup options were to point the camera from the table in the corner to the beds and everything, and then we could sit next to each other like this, or we could have the awkward camera pointing towards the corner and we're like talking
We
to
were,
each
like,
other.
scrunched over a table.
And
I
we
remember that.
picked the awkward one, and that was that episode. And hopefully this is a lot better.
Yeah.
So
Tried to learn some lessons from the last one, but for the record, this was also pretty last minute. So apologies if it's not quite as good as it could be. But
yeah, but I mean, yeah, we both had to like commute today to where we met in the middle, and so this is not like a space that we have control over. We're renting out a space, so there's just a lot of factors we don't have control over. So we hope that it's good enough, and the goal is to recreate a show for you, but live, and combine the Q&A so you all can be a part of the show. And we're both really excited for it. I think the layout is we're going to go through the stories just like we always do, except we're going to do it live, and you guys get to see some of our live analysis. I guess everybody gets the patron version this week. And then from there, we'll go ahead and do the Q&A. And we got a lot of good questions. And just so everybody knows about the Q&A, like always, we leave it for patrons and people who support us. We'll try our best to go in the XMR chat periodically to just make sure no one's leaving anything live. So feel free to leave more questions on Patreon, on XMR chat, or if you're already in our Signal group, which is for our patrons, feel free to leave questions in the Signal group while we're chatting as well. And we'll try to keep up with that. I think Nate has his phone here, so we'll do our best with that. And then we will still do super chats. So if you want to leave super chats, we will try to get to those as well. I think that's all I have for preview.
I got nothing.
Yeah. You did a lot of digging into the highlight story, so I'll let you take over.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hold on.
Do we want to word for word go through the notes? New academic research about web tracking.
Do we want to? It's your week to start, technically. So if we want to do it.
Yeah, all right, we'll do it.
Okay. Henry's gonna do
New
it.
academic research about web tracking and defenses against it. Google is finally killing ad blockers in Chrome, and the new privacy and security features in Android 15. We have a really special show today, brought to you live. Welcome to Surveillance Report 200, where we are celebrating with a little party with all of you. I'm Henry from Techlore.
I'm Nathan from The New Oil.
And we're going to keep the promo segment short because you're all here and you already understand. But yeah, join our Patreon if you like what we do. We're also on LiberPay, Monero, and we support tips on XMR chat. That's all I got.
All right. I guess I'm taking the highlight story because, this I had nothing better to do on the way out here, so I actually read the whole research paper. It's actually only about 20 pages, and it's a little technical, but it's not overly technical. So if you have the time, I definitely recommend reading it. But the title is Combating Web Tracking, Analyzing Web Tracking Technologies for User Privacy. And the short version, for those who don't want to go read it, is basically that there are a lot of different methods to tracking on the web, but there's also a lot of different ways to fight them. And different methods of both tracking and defense are varying in their efficacy depending on the situation. So some things work better than others depending on what's going on. There's no perfect browser, there's no perfect extension, there's no perfect technique, but there are some general rules of thumb that apply to most people, which is kind of how we feel about privacy and security in general. And we're going to cover kind of the big takeaways that apply to most people. But if you think that you need more privacy or security than the average person, or you're just really curious about how this stuff works, definitely make time to read the article. So some interesting takeaways here. I just found this part particularly interesting. It says 79% of websites globally employed web tracking, with Google maintaining tracking presence on 80.3% of all websites. Recent studies have highlighted the misuse of web tracking for malicious purposes, including price discrimination, government surveillance, background scanning, and identity theft. Furthermore, cybercriminals may exploit stolen data to launch cyber attacks or sell them on the dark web for profit. So most of us probably knew the broad strokes of that, but just kind of to give context. So browser fingerprinting can detect the use of emulators or spoofing tools, which may indicate suspicious activity on a website. Thus, browser fingerprints can act as a reliable user identifier as they are typically distinct enough to differentiate between individual users. I found that first part really interesting, how it can detect spoofing tools and emulators, but we'll get into that a little bit later. When they dug into specific browsers, they said Brave browser and Tor browser offer the most comprehensive protection against web tracking and fingerprinting. Both provide in-browser support for essential privacy features such as tracker and ad blocking, fingerprinting prevention, and cross-site cookie protection, making them ideal for users seeking robust built-in privacy without relying on third-party extensions. Brave strikes an excellent balance between privacy and usability, offering strong native protections while maintaining compatibility with a wide range of websites. Tor browser, on the other hand, provides the highest level of privacy, particularly through its advanced fingerprinting prevention mechanisms. However, this heightened privacy can sometimes result in usability challenges such as page rendering issues. Firefox also performs well, offering customizable privacy options and the flexibility to enhance privacy through extensions. That was for desktop, though. For mobile browsers, one study suggested that trackers could access a sensor when a user entered a key or PIN and could perform stateless tracking based on the sensor. Researchers also discovered that 3,695 out of 100,000 websites, that would be what, like 36%? No, not even. I don't know. I'm not good at math. I'm not even gonna try. I give up. Anyways, about 3,700 out of 100,000 websites accessed one or more sensor APIs.
3.6%.
3.6%. Okay. I wasn't sure how far to move the decimal. I'm really not good at math. Furthermore, 63% of scripts accessing motion sensors used canvas fingerprinting. Another researcher proposed sensor calibration fingerprinting as a method of tracking. This method infers the calibration value that the smartphone manufacturer takes for the correct value of the sensor. This is a highly efficient method because it can be used without the user's permission on a website or an app, and the researcher explained that the problem could be solved by rounding or adding subtle noise to the value that did not affect the quality, although I don't think they said whether that's actually in use. It was just kind of something interesting. This is almost like a meta study. Like they cited a lot of other studies. I'm not sure how much research they did on their own, but they cited like multiple studies as they went through this. So they cited another couple of studies that used Panopticlick and Am I Unique? So for the record, I do believe in taking those sites with a grain of salt. I think they're really good at telling you what websites can see about you, and I think they're valuable for that. But a lot of them towards the top will be like, oh, you're unique out of 500,000 browsers we've seen in the last 30 days or whatever. And I think that's where people kind of start to get led astray, because at that point you are measuring yourself against a very specific subset of other users who are specifically interested in privacy and not necessarily the wider population. But anyway, so they used Panopticlick and Am I Unique, which Panopticlick I think is now Cover Your Tracks for the FF. They found that 62% of mobile device fingerprints had unique canvas values in the analysis, while only 30% of desktop fingerprints had unique plugin combinations. The results of the study indicated that mobile devices' own features significantly impacted the fingerprint, while user customization on desktops had a major influence on the fingerprint. The findings show that browser fingerprinting may not be effective on a very large scale, but it is an important factor in identifying users on a small scale. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that means. I'm not sure if they're saying that like it's only effective in certain situations, or I'm not really sure, but I still thought that was an interesting sense.
Yeah, to speak to actually the number of things, 77 citations. Yeah, pretty
for a 20-page paper.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was a long read, but it was good. Where we go? Okay, so they also at one point mentioned extensions like uBlock Origin. They said many tracking prevention tools use a method of blocking requests from network based on filter lists, which block network requests matching filter lists from web pages based on URL-based lists such as EasyList and Easy Privacy. This method produces these lists based on passive reporting, which has the advantage of quick detection with minimal resources. However, since there is a high possibility of a lack of detection due to the limited detection range, we introduce a study to train machine learning identifiers to increase detection rates and automation of filter list creation to make fingerprinting meaningless by randomizing the values of fingerprinting elements or identifying different browser environments. that'll change like your user agent or your canvas information. But they pointed out that in a lot of those situations, the website can tell that the information doesn't match up. So for example, it might say that your user agent is Safari, you're using Safari, but then when they look at the hardware, it's like, no, this is clearly not a Windows machine, or something like that. Or this clearly is a Windows machine. So I thought that was interesting. And at the very end, they did offer some suggested solutions, mostly in terms of like doing more research and getting more information about this. But they said more comprehensive countermeasures, such as randomizing browser elements to realistic values or randomizing. Not so great.
I think whatever you did with the audio tracks,
Yeah.
you might have screwed something up.
Can people not hear? Oh no. Do I need to start over?
They said they could hear you. It's just they're
Okay.
hearing you through my mic, I think.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so the suggested solutions, more comprehensive countermeasures, such as randomizing browser elements to realistic values or randomized values for each session, will be necessary in addition to further research. First, holistic tracker detections should be implemented by combining multiple detection layers, including DNS-based filtering, behavior blocking, and fingerprint resistance. Second, cross-layer protection. Protection should be integrated across the browser, network, and device levels to prevent reliance on a single layer, such as cookies for tracking. And lastly, enhanced user education. Turn it off.
I think I
Okay,
fixed it.
the multi-track thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let us know if that works.
Let us know
Sorry,
if that works.
I was trying to do something for recording later, but I guess it had some diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Lastly, enhanced user education. Tools should be made more intuitive while offering better insights into what is being blocked. For example, integrating a privacy score can help users understand their overall risk level, enabling them to adjust their behavior or tools accordingly. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go through in this article. I think I kind of went through most of it as we went. It is, but it's really nice to get this this academic research into this stuff, because I know a lot of the stuff I've seen is either logical, like for example, people mention, and I think they did address this, maybe they touched on it briefly, but a lot of people will mention like, well, if you block origin, if you go in and turn on all the filters, now you're blocking more stuff than most people, and that could potentially make you stand out. And it's a logical thing. It makes sense, but at the same time, can you cite a source? Can you cite research? And that's what's really cool about this paper is they cite all that research and they kind of combine a lot of it. So I think the big thing that I thought was really interesting, especially at the end, they talk about layered defenses. I've had that issue before. I've tried to turn off like uBlock Origin because I'm like, oh, I want to get a screenshot of a website that's full of ads so that people can, like for a video, so I can show people like, look how crazy the internet is without ad blockers. And I still don't get ads because, I've got like something like my DNS on my router is blocking them or something like that. And it's actually really hard for me to purposely get ads on my devices now because I have so many layers of defense. But yeah, I think the takeaway here is Tor is your best option, but as they said, it does come with trade-offs. Brave is also really good. Firefox can work, but obviously, you have to add some extensions and stuff like that. Man, I thought I took notes on this one, but I don't see them now. I wonder if they got
Only
deleted.
the whole 2 pages of notes from the story itself.
Yeah, fair. I talk a lot, but yeah, and I think, like I said at the beginning, the really big takeaway here is there is no perfect fix. It was even interesting. Like they said, like even browser fingerprinting doesn't work all the time. So there's a lot of like certain tools work better in certain situations, and I cut all that out. They actually go in depth into like the different types of content blocking and how they get detected by the fingerprinters and how they block the fingerprinting. And so yeah, it's just there's different things can defend against different things in different ways.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of sad you took that point because that's what I was going to touch on as well, which is I liked how they covered layering your defenses. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of misinformation around that. I just put out a video yesterday on the Techlore side of things about, and we're going to talk about this story too on the podcast today. Chrome pretty much ending support for UBO.
I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, it's 6 minutes. It's nothing you haven't heard, and it's probably nothing people here haven't heard. It's geared towards Chrome users. You'll notice there's no mention of privacy or security in the title or thumbnail. It's literally like, oh hey, Chrome's coming after your favorite ad blockers.
As they are.
And there was a comment, again, this is geared towards a totally different demographic. There was a comment there that said, because I didn't suggest DNS filtering, because DNS filtering does not block the same ads that can be blocked with an actual browser plugin. They cover different things and they cover different types of threats. And sometimes they cover the same things. There is kind of an overlap here and there, but you can't block YouTube ads with a DNS filter. you have to use something like uBlock Origin. It's just a brief example. There's a lot of these examples out there. So my point is there was this take that, oh, I just use, my VPN's ad blocker.
Which helps, sure.
It helps, but it does not replace what uBlock Origin will do in something like Chrome or any other web browser. So we hear this from a lot of experts who say, like, make sure to combine multiple privacy tools, because when you bring them all together, you have a very holistic view of your privacy and security. But I think people really want that like one-click solution. And that's not going to happen if you want like better privacy. So yeah, I think that's the takeaway. I'd love to get some takes from the Tor browser team and the Tor project, as well as from the Brave team, to see what they think about this research. Because I know that those are probably the teams that I feel like are most vocal about it, as well as maybe Molvad browser.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if they did Molvad browser.
Yeah, I don't think they did,
Yeah.
which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did Tor, and Tor is the things they cited that make it work are basically the same that should work for the Molvad browser, because they pointed out the whole like everybody's supposed to look the same. The only thing Tor has over Molvad that the research specifically cited is that Tor does the whole multi-hop encryption thing of your traffic, so Molvad obviously can't do that. But I mean, you could recreate it with a multi-hop VPN to an extent. So
Yeah.
it was interesting research. So
Nice. All right. Well, now we're going to enter the data breaches. And the first one is that cybercriminals have advertised stealing Verizon push-to-talk call logs. If you want to, what I was doing while you were talking is I was just kind of like scrolling through the article. So
I already read them.
for the people,
for the people
not for
watching.
you.
we never do that.
We don't, because it's a lot of editing.
We don't even have them in reader mode.
We don't. No, it's fine because I have an ad blocker. Because I have a browser that supports ad blockers.
Oh god. All right.
Anyway, this breach does not appear to impact the main consumer Verizon network. What they broke into is a third-party provider that stole data on Verizon's push-to-talk systems, which is a separate product marketed towards public sector agencies, enterprises, and small businesses to communicate internally. So probably not anything that you're all impacted by. The access includes several admin accounts with admin level rights, APIs, several interconnected. Oh yeah, but it's paywalled, isn't it?
Well, this one's free, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
you have to sign up.
LAN servers and more. The data includes call logs, emails, phone numbers, addresses, names, and more. And the current data amounts to almost a terabyte. Revenue is above 100 billion. What's revenue above 100 billion?
I'm guessing from the company. I copied that
Okay.
from the article.
Got it.
So.
Okay. Weird wording for that.
Yeah.
But the price is 200,000 minimum, I assume, because they don't want
For the
to
data.
release the data. And then so the negotiations are open, serious buyers only, and the post, that's pretty much it. So Senator Ron Wyden told 404 Media in a statement that phone companies have proven they don't care if they have poor cybersecurity and it harms their customers or U.S. national security. They won't start until the government actually holds phone companies and their executives responsible. $1 million fines haven't done anything to deter cybersecurity negligence by multi-billion-dollar companies. Ron Wyden is consistently super based. I mean, we see him a lot, and I'm a little bummed because I reached out to their PR team to see if I could get an interview with Ron Wyden, and I'd still love to, because he always has good takes like this.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing it more often. I don't know how people feel, or you feel, about holding executives accountable for data breaches. I'm very mixed on it.
I mean, I bet it would fix the problem real quick.
It sure would. But I think for me, the issue is it's like down the road. If a person is personally liable for something that happens within a company, I think that can start applying to other things as well, which
Slippery
might have
slope.
the slippery slope of that might be a little not great.
That's a fair
Because a
point.
lot of people, like, the reason to open a company is to have personal liability protection, which normally is actually advantageous to most situations.
Sure.
But in this one, it's definitely tough, and it would be an easy way to solve this because Ron Wyden is right. This isn't doing anything to solve the problem. To just find these companies a crap ton of money when it's not even that much money to them, honestly.
Yeah, it's not. We routinely, I think it ends up in the patron section, but we routinely, when it's like, oh, they find this company $50 million, we'll go through and look up on Wikipedia, like, oh, they made $2 billion last year. That's like, 20 minutes of work or whatever. Again, bad at math, but yeah, really unfortunate.
I see your super chat. We'll make sure to get to that question when we get to the Q&A later. So I'm going to screenshot it just in case it disappears. And
Cool.
you all can still feel free to leave super chats. We're going to prioritize all those and our patrons at the end. So Thank you for that, Cyber Cub.
All right. Our next story, Redbox apparently went out of business. I'm so disconnected from pop culture and Redbox and all that stuff. I didn't even know. But yeah, apparently Redbox went out of business, and someone has easily reverse engineered the boxes to reveal customer names, zip codes, and rentals. So this is kind of more research, but I think it belongs in this section because apparently... So again, Redbox went bankrupt in June. And stores who have red boxes just sitting outside are like, well, I don't want this anymore because, it's just taking up space. It's ugly. It doesn't do anything. And, it's just, I want it gone. So apparently they're letting people just take them. People are coming up. They're like, hey, I'll give you $50 or I'll get rid of it for you. Let me call my buddy with a truck. And they're like, cool, get rid of it. Don't care.
Yeah, I read a different story about that, how some people are like unable to get rid of them and they're like, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
They don't know what to
Some
do.
of them are ending up in literal landfills, which is just fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah. And of course, quoting the article, tinkerers have reported getting their hands on Redbox kiosks and doing all sorts of fun things with them, including running Doom. Because of course they do. It's the first thing you got to do with anything. Anyways, so one particular expert, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce because I'm probably going to butcher it, reported on Mastodon that she was able to retrieve the records for 2,471 transactions from the disk image of a Redbox hard drive. She told ours that she got the image from a Discord channel. The Redbox logged lots of information, including debugging information from the transaction terminal, and they left old records on the device. This probably saved them some time for Q&Ing software bugs, but it exposed all their users to their data being leaked. I'm curious what... We're going to get to more details about why this data was there in a second, but it suddenly occurs to me, I wonder where they're from, and if this was like a high traffic area and it only had 2,000 records, or if this was like a low traffic area and it's like, holy crap, it had almost all the records. I'm just... Sudden thought that occurs to me. So data went back at least as far as 2015 and included records for when stuff is renting, like customer emails and zip codes, as well as names of disks and when they were rented. Turing was also able to retrieve some numbers of customer credit cards. I think they said it was like a partial... Yeah, right here. We've got the first 6 and last 4, which is quite a bit more than usual. Most places just have last 4. And... yeah, plus some lower-level transaction details. Sorry, just making sure I didn't miss anything there. The information was enough for the researcher to determine the name of a person who rented the Giver and the Maze Runner in Morganton, North Carolina on May 23rd, 2015 at 6:43 p.m. And I think ours was not able to verify that claim, but that's what the researcher claimed. And again, I don't know if Morganton is like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a suburb of a bigger city. I'm not familiar with North Carolina, but... It is suggested, so here's where we get to like when I was asking, was this a high traffic area, was this a low traffic area? Someone suggested that the red boxes only store data on local hard drives if there's an internet outage so that transactions could continue taking place. And that would mean that data for only a small portion of transactions was likely stored. Although I wonder why not just delete the data locally once it's transmitted? That seems a little weird to me. She told ours that finding customer data wasn't hard or time consuming and that she was able to crack the hard drive image with common free tools. Which is something I think a lot of people don't understand is that, cyber criminals, when they steal like a hash password, for example, and they try to crack it, they're using things like John the Ripper, or I'm not familiar with the other tools out there. I know that's a big one. And but these are totally free, totally legal tools that anyone, anywhere, for the most part probably, can go download, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Anyways, the root issue is that this was a machine that has to boot by itself with no chance for a human to enter a decryption password. This means that the machine has to be able to decrypt itself, and that's according to the researcher. So several experts noted that Chicken Soup, which is the parent company, yeah, it's like that Chicken Soup for the human soul or something. They're feel good books. I think I read one years ago. But anyways, they apparently own Redbox. They said their actions may violate, or they did own Redbox. Their actions may violate consumer privacy regulations, including the Video Privacy Protection Act, which outlaws wrongful disclosure of videotape rental or sale records. However, Chicken Soup's bankruptcy, which means most of its assets are in a holding pattern, makes customer remediation more complicated and less likely. A staff attorney for EFF told ours, quote, "This security flaw is a reminder that all companies should be obligated to minimize the amount of data they collect and retain in the first place. We need strong data privacy laws to do that." So yeah, I think Henry and I are both really big fans of that idea. We love companies who, even if they're not like encrypted, even if they're a service that can't encrypt or chooses not to for whatever reason, at very least, they should take an approach of, we want as little data as possible, and that's so that we have nothing to turn over.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. The goal is so that especially just basic information. Some of the stuff doesn't need to be collected. The amount of data that we've seen in data, like the kind of data in data breaches is crazy.
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, sexual preferences,
Uh-huh.
like every medical condition they've had in their entire life, everything. It's just insane. I think what's like normalized to just collect. I still think a lot of people have this idea that more data and more data collection is always better because you don't know what you're going to do with it later. But I do think we need to try to change that perspective to be collect as little as possible because that's going to be just better for security and better for privacy. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. And with all the data breaches we cover every week, we wish that more companies would do that.
My favorite is the bookshop.org is my favorite, which is I want so badly to find something like that where I can get an affiliate link because I recommend books on the New Oil. And then people can just, while they buy them, I can get a few cents too. But if you look at bookshop.org's privacy policy, it's like they want your keyboard settings and your time zone and your IP address. And it's like, I understand you're trying to like serve me the right language, for example, but like, why do you need all three of those to do that? Like you could do that with just my IP address. Even just a rough IP address of like, what country am I in? Oh, you probably speak English. Like,
Hot take.
oh boy. Just let people pick their language when they yeah. I mean, or that. Like, let's be real. Let's be honest. Most people on the internet speak English, or at least as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm in my little English speaking bubble. But yeah, like let people pick that one, or like default to one language, and then just have that little drop down where people can like pick their language. Yeah, that's not really rocket surgery.
Yeah. I already moved it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Our next data. So, just heads up, because our mics are really close, I was muting mine while you were talking.
Okay.
Because people were like, oh, there's an echo, which is valid, because I don't like that either. So I don't know if you want, but you can just hit that mute button.
I can do that.
Yeah, while
Where is it?
I talk.
Oh, there you are.
Just so, yeah.
Is it muted now?
Yeah, when it's blinking.
Yeah.
You know, the Yeti, I don't, yeah. Anyway, so for those who remember, probably the biggest data breach since we started the show, if not at minimum this year, there was NPD, National Public Data. And this is the big one that leaked pretty much everybody's social security numbers in the US. That company has filed for bankruptcy. Is that a... Do we cheer? I think it's a cheer. Anyway, the parent company of them told a Florida bankruptcy court that it was unlikely to be able to repay its debtors or address its anticipated liabilities and class action lawsuits, including paying for credit monitoring for hundreds of millions of potentially impacted individuals. Are you telling me that I'm not going to get my 2 years of free credit monitoring covered?
You'll just have to go through some other country or company that breached your data and is offering 2 years.
Yeah. Anyway, the company faces substantial uncertainty, facing regulatory challenges by the FTC and more than 20 states with civil penalties for data breaches. So thank you. I never changed it. Yeah, it's brave. Yeah. Good. There we go. Ooh, that's a cool graphic. Okay.
Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, pretty much. This is good. I mean, we were just talking about how there should be more consequences, and there should be real consequences, not just, hey, we're gonna fine you a little bit. And I hope this sets kind of a precedent that these companies can't just do this kind of nonsense. The sad thing is that this is one of many companies that could have been hit by this breach that could have had the same impact. And I hope that the other companies doing this are like, ooh, maybe we should do something about it instead of just waiting to be the second version of this. But this is bad. This actually was popular enough where, again, people I think I said this in the episode we covered this story. People I know who don't do anything with privacy are messaging me about it. Same. I think you said the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. No, I was just gonna say the same thing. Is like
Oh.
What happened? Did you mute me? Did I come unplugged? Check 1 2. Ah, bummer. I bet it came unplugged. Yep, it did. I should be back now. Hello.
Testing.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Cool.
Fun. Sorry, that cable's a little loose. No, I said the same thing. It's this one and 23andMe. 23andMe is like circling the drain right now. And like, I know that's kind of messed up because, people need jobs or whatever. But like, I think if we see this start to happen more often where these companies have a serious data breach and it starts like literally destroying the company, That is, you want to talk about like the free market and stuff like that. That's going to get these companies to start caring real quick. If we actually hit a point where it's like a data breach can for real ruin your company, we're going to see data breaches get a lot less severe and a lot less common. So, yeah.
Someone asked about questions. Just a little reminder. You don't have to keep doing that. You can. I'll handle it on my end.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you are. Just a little reminder for people who might be coming in late. We are doing the stories first, and then we're doing questions after. But for the Q&A in terms of questions, we're doing patrons, XMR chat people in our Signal group first, and then we'll do super chats. So if you want your chats answered in the live chat to be guaranteed, then ask us in the super chat. Someone just asked, and I wanted to remind them of that. We're doing our best with the audio. It's hard because we're so close, so we appreciate the patience. Next story.
So I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and do our usual of going through them rapid fire. How many do we have? I'll just do the rest of them. So first up, the Internet Archive was exposing user email addresses for years before the recent breach. So this is basically, if you looked at the metadata, you could see whoever uploaded it, whatever their account was. So it's, I don't know. I don't want this to come off as like, oh, this new breach is nothing because people were, is already exposing. But it's, I think, just kind of interesting to know that was out there. The next story says cyber criminals are extorting Globe Life with stolen customer data. So Globe Life is a life insurance, health insurance company, or maybe just life insurance. But they unfortunately appear to have had a data breach. And last but not least, Beyond Leon ransomware claims attack on Boston's children health physicians. Really not cool to attack hospitals in the first place, but especially children's hospitals. That seems not cool. So yeah, that's kind of all I got on those stories. If you guys want more information, in the description, we will have show notes. I actually don't think we've uploaded them yet, but we will right after this episode. So you guys will be able to see them.
Yeah. We were calling it Brian Lyon.
You were calling it Brian Lyon.
It looks like Brian Lyon.
It does a little bit. It does. It's weird to say to my American mouth that is not used to forming those sounds.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, yes, I did just finish one coffee and pull out another coffee.
Yeah, there he goes. I just have a matcha latte. I'm not a coffee person, but
I just like caffeine and sugar.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you like matcha lattes then. It's less caffeine.
I don't like matcha.
It's a oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good reason not to drink it.
It's more for you though.
It is. I gotta say though, ever since I started making matcha lattes from home, I think everything outside the house is garbage. I haven't found a good matcha latte outside the house. I can't get one anywhere.
I feel that way about coffee in general. That's why when I'm out of the house, I get like the sugary fraps and mochas and stuff like that.
Yeah, fair. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this story. I actually just made a video on it, so I got it down. I don't need these notes. Your notes are garbage.
Oh, fine. Fine. We'll scroll on to the next story.
Go ahead. So, a lot of you might have already heard about this. It's been getting a lot of attention, especially on socials. Subtle brag, but I've been doing PSAs about it on Twitter through Techlore, and I got Firefox. Oh, I didn't get. They did it themselves, but Firefox and Brave both engaged with it, and I thought it was a cool moment where, like, all these browsers that people pick wars over are all like, yeah, we're all like, why the hell are we fighting? Like, this is great. Like, we all hate Chrome, and we all deal with this issue. Anyway, Chrome is now warning and actually removing uBlock Origin from some people's browsers. This has been a slow rollout. It's been a long time coming, and this is due to Manifest v3. So extensions run on this technology called Manifest v2, and Chrome, is trying to do better with privacy and security of extensions by pretty much restricting what extensions can do inside your web browser. I don't actually think it's the worst intention. The problem is I see this, and kind of the analogy I made is to Apple. Apple is always doing this thing of like, we're going to try to raise the base standard of what safety can be to prevent people from abusing the system too much. So they have this super locked down ecosystem. But because it's so locked down, and this is something that Brave has said as well, this is how Brave put it with Brave browser on iOS, they can't make it as good as they can in other platforms because WebKit is so restricted. So they've done what they can with WebKit, and WebKit is actually better than a lot of browser engines by default compared to other browsers that you'll find on other operating systems. But you can't go better than that. And that's the issue. And this is, I think, the problem with Manifest v3. It might raise the bar for like malicious extensions and what they can do on your system, and it will probably protect some people. But why can people not use something better and make a better extension that can actually use those permissions for good? So that's actually what's kind of going on here with uBlock Origin. They are unable to access as much data in your browser, which means they can't offer you as good of a service, and they can't block as much stuff. So that's what's going on. Your options are to use uBlock Origin Lite in Chrome if you're still stuck on Chrome for whatever reason. It's still probably the best ad blocker you can use on Chrome. If you don't want to use Chrome or you just want to use uBlock Origin, which is what we probably recommend, your options are you can use Brave with its default shields, which is fine. Or Brave has actually integrated directly in the settings a way to install uBlock Origin. You go into your Brave settings, you go to extensions, you go to manage v2 extensions, and you click install uBlock Origin. You can also install uMatrix, you can install AdGuard, and I think NoScript. So they bake that in for you directly in the settings. Alternatively, you can use a Firefox-based browser, and that's probably like the easiest solution, I think, overall. Just use a Firefox-based browser, install uBlock Origin, and be done with your day. A lot of these Firefox-based browsers already include uBlock Origin, like Mullvad Browser and LibreWolf come with uBlock Origin out of the box. So those are kind of the solutions. Really tough situation. Not a big fan of it, obviously, but hopefully that was all the context that you need.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, personally, and I don't think you'll disagree with me on this one, I wouldn't recommend uMatrix. Look, I love uMatrix. I loved it. It was so good. I loved it. But it hasn't been updated in like 2 or 3 years. Like the developer has put it in archive mode. It is officially unsupported. So, you know, buyer beware on that one. But I was also going to say, I've asked a couple of loved ones recently if they'd be willing to try out Mullvad Browser for a few weeks just to see how it performs for an average person. And so far, the only person, one person, this is on them, but apparently they have a Norton subscription. I think they might be watching now. Hi, love you. They have a Norton subscription, and Norton flagged it as malicious. And I was like, well, Norton's malicious. Ignore it and uninstall Norton. But once they got it installed, they, as far as I know, haven't reported any issues. The other person immediately was like, yeah, none of the streaming services work, like Netflix, Hulu. They actually went through and tested all of them that they had access to, and none of them worked, except Jellyfin. So I don't think it's necessarily good for the average everyday user. But I do think it says a lot that the only complaint I've heard so far is like none of the streaming stuff works. So if you know somebody who doesn't stream in their browser anyways, Mullvad I think is a pretty good one too. But yeah, Firefox, LibreWolf, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you are too, but I'm a huge proponent of using multiple browsers. So
yeah,
having Mullvad there for just like disposable searches or even your default browser. And then when you need to watch Netflix, just open Brave or open even Firefox you can use Netflix with.
Yep.
So there's just so many options that you have, and I don't know why people don't use multiple browsers, to be honest. Because even if I used Chrome, I want a different browser for different things. I
actually recommend that on the New Oil in like the tips and tricks section of the browser section. It's like, whichever browser you go with, you should also download the other one as a backup browser, because there's sometimes that, you know, things just don't work in Firefox, or they don't, even Brave. Weirdly enough, I have so many things that like don't work in Brave, but I open them in Mullvad of all things, they work fine. So yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I think anyone who watched the video and like understands the point I was trying to make, which I made very obvious. I just made the video about like why I moved away from Firefox and how I'm using Mullvad and Brave as my workflow.
I saw that one. Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who were upset about that, even though I'm still using a Firefox-based browser. They were like, I can't believe this is cringe. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. This is what works for me. Anyway, I thought it was really funny because of all people, the Tor browser retweeted it on Twitter and on Mastodon.
Interesting.
And I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm glad that the Tor browser approves. And okay.
I literally wrote on my website on the browser page at the top, I'm like, no matter which one I pick, somebody's going to be like, why didn't you include this one? Or what about this one? I'm like, look, it's a sucky space. I hate Mozilla as a company. I hate Brave as a company. Maybe not hate, but like they've done a lot of things I don't approve of. It's like there is no perfect solution, but yeah. I get it for the record. I do get it.
Yeah. I'll try to cycle more between screens to keep you all enjoying different scenery.
This one's mine, right? All right, so next up, we have Android 15 security and privacy features. are the updates highlight. So as of this past Tuesday, Android 15 started rolling out to Pixel devices and will arrive through various third-party efforts on other Android devices at some point. So, of course,
Can I interrupt you just real quick? Because I forgot to say it, and it's urgent. But we got a big super chat, and I just wanted to thank Christy for giving us a super chat. And we will get back to all the super chats when we're done. And we just got another one from Lionel. So thank you, Lionel.
cool.
Fine.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. So being a privacy and security podcast, there's a lot of things in Android 15, but we're going to focus specifically on the privacy and security stuff. So some of the most notable changes involve making your device less appealing to snoops and thieves and more secure against the kids to whom you hand your phone to keep them from quiet at dinner. I don't know if that's when I would hand my kids my phone, but I'm not a parent, so who am I to criticize? There are also smart fixes for screen sharing, OTP codes, and cellular hacking prevention, but details about them are spread across Google's own docs and blogs and various news sites' reports. So thank you, Ars Technica, for combining them all into one place. So, up first, in the Android 15 settings, you can find private space, where you can set up a separate PIN code, password, biometric check, and other optional Google account for apps you don't want to be available to anybody who happens to have your phone. This could add a layer of protection onto sensitive apps like banking and shopping apps, or hide other apps for whatever reason. It is more involved than Apple's hide and require Face ID tap option, but with potentially more robust hiding of the app. And once again, reminder, we're like trimming these stories down so they kind of explain why they think it might be a little bit more robust. The next one is a new permission likely to be given only to the most critical of apps, which prevents the leaking of one-time passcodes to other apps waiting for them. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the way they describe that is like, a lot of the time when you log in on your phone and you can choose to autofill from like Bitwarden or, whatever your password manager of choice is, and it'll automatically copy, at least for me, what happens a lot of the time is it fills in username and password, and then it automatically copies the TOTP or that little 6-digit rotating code. So that way, once the next screen loads where you put that in, it's already in your clipboard and you just paste it, which is super handy for the record. I think what they're saying is now certain apps, it won't automatically copy them, and it'll kind of, I forget why it's supposed to be more secure, but it's designed to prevent against like malicious apps. You have to go and manually get them. Sharing your screen will also hide OTP notifications along with usernames, passwords, and credit card numbers, which is somebody who screen records for a lot of demos. I really appreciate, because I've definitely forgotten to redact things before.
Oh, yeah. So that's huge.
Yeah, that's great.
And also, I think, sorry, quick round. I'm eating my donut.
How dare
I didn't think I was going to have to talk so quickly. I remember, this is a really weird memory that I think about all the time now, which is that Mythbusters growing up. There was an episode where they tried to see if swearing while you're experiencing pain reduced the amount of pain.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, they did find that it did.
And that's why I curse.
You're just always in pain.
That's my secret, Captain.
But pretty much in that episode, there was a very quick message that I think Jamie said. He was like, yeah, we're trying to like reduce the amount of recording during the test itself because the amount of money that it costs to censor is like, it raises the amount of money for the show exponentially. And I'm like,
soundbite?
And I'm like, what? But no, I kind of get it, because like now when I'm editing, the thing that by far takes the longest when I'm editing is going back, covering things in my screen recordings, blurring things out, or censoring.
They blur the mouths.
I think they blurred the mouths as well, and that I think that is what he was referring to. So like to this day, I'm like, no, that's like a thing, and it takes me so long to do that when I'm editing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to there.
Somebody's stereo is very loud. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but
Oh, they heard us. They turned it off.
they're watching. Thank you for watching.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just dropping a beep sound is not that hard, but yeah, covering the mouth is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one we talked about this on a couple episodes ago. Theft detection lock on Android uses AI to sense if someone has yanked a phone and is rapidly moving away with it, automatically locking the phone if so. Google's security blog post on the feature suggests that it uses on-device machine learning to analyze various device signals and determine if a device was, quote, yoinked. That is a very technical word that Ars used. Why do I keep saying theft? If theft detection didn't work, there are at least two backups. Offline device lock activates if the internet connection is disabled on your phone, and using another device, you can remote lock at android.com/lock to quickly lock your device with a phone number and a security challenge. Those three key features which are theft detection lock, offline device lock, and remote lock, are not exclusive to Android 15, but are rolling out along with its release. Users as far back as Android 10 should get a Google Play Service update to enable the features, but you will have to go into the device settings to turn it on. I think we talked about this one too. Google Play Protect will start using on-device AI from the private compute core to analyze additional behavior signals related to the use of sensitive permissions and interactions with other apps and services. So basically, they're trying to do on-device machine learning to detect any potentially malicious apps. Should strange happenings be detected, users can send the suspected app to Google for further review and disable the app from a notification in the meantime. Android 15 will also tell users when they're using unencrypted cell connection to prevent potential interception or injection of their traffic or SMS messages. So stingrays, for example, we've talked about those in the past. For those who don't know, they basically are cell tower emulators. They will intercept your traffic and try to decrypt what they can, which on, I think it's 2G or lower, is basically just like opening an envelope. It's so easy. Certain at-risk users, such as journalists or dissidents, can be alerted to potentially false cellular base stations or attempts to identify their device, but these features are not on by default and require OEM integration and compatible hardware. Google says it expects adoption over the next couple of years for other devices. I think a lot of more modern devices, with the exception of Samsung, last time I heard, EFF wrote an article about that, most modern devices like iPhones and Pixels can turn that off already, I think. I could be remembering wrong. But yeah, this is becoming a more common thing for sure. I wish it was on by default, but I guess some areas are probably still not using like 5G and 4G. Should a thief or snoop have access to your phone before you can lock it, Android 15 has instituted some smarter defaults for making changes to deeper settings. And these include changing something in the Find My Device setting requires either a PIN, password, or biometric verification. Logging in multiple times with the wrong PIN or password will lock the device for a while, which is great. Google says that enhanced factory reset protection will make it harder to wipe a device if you don't have the owner's Google account credentials. Identity check is an opt-in feature that always asks for biometric authentication when changing critical settings or accessing passkeys from previously unused locations. And let's see. There is now a device to toggle for sending your device name to network and Bluetooth connections. Great. And Android devices put into lockdown mode now entirely block USB data access to accessories and computers, which should block attacks over ADB channels. And I would assume from context, things like Celebrate. So really cool stuff coming from Google. Still plenty of privacy concerns with Google, but it is cool to see them rolling this stuff out.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Someone asked if 2G is still used anywhere. Normally, I mean, it is, but also phones will still try. To my understanding, the way stingrays work is they're meant to get your phone to use those networks. So the fact that it's still on and able to be utilized is the issue.
They forcibly downgrade your phone to 2G. Yeah. Unless, again, you have one of these phones where you can go into the settings and say never, ever use 2G no matter what. And I think in answer to your question, yeah, I haven't looked it up, but I'm totally willing to bet that some less wealthy parts of the world are probably still very much using 2G. I'd put money on it. I could be wrong, but I'd be surprised if I was wrong.
All right, so now we're gonna go into the research. Let me change up the mics here to avoid the echo. So now going to research. Chinese scientists have reported using quantum computers to hack military-grade encryption. So this is according to the SCMP, and this is employed... Here, you can... There you go. Yeah. Yeah,
by accident, my bad.
I hide the doc, so it's.
You're good. I just opened the Finder. That's
Yeah.
the noise. I'm not used to this mouse pad.
Anyway, they called key representatives of the substitution permutation network, the SPN structure, and the structure is foundational for advanced encryption standards, or AES, and it's a system widely deployed in military and financial encryption protocols, aka military-grade encryption. Unironically, though, because that is where the term comes from. The study suggests that quantum computers may soon threaten such security. The researchers acknowledged the current constraints of quantum computing technology, and they stated that while quantum computing shows promise, its development is hampered by environmental factors, immature hardware, and the challenge of devising a single attack algorithm capable of breaching multiple cryptographic systems. The study emphasizes that while a quantum computer has not yet revealed the specific passcodes used in the algorithms tested, it is closer to doing so than previously. As the technology advances, the researchers suggest that further developments could yield more robust quantum attacks. So nothing groundbreaking here. I know a lot of people have kind of taken this story a little too far and have been like, oh my God, quantum computers are here. And no. What this is they're getting better, and we need to continually be proactive. And we're already seeing companies start to implement quantum protections. Like I think Tuda's doing it, Proton's doing it, Signal's doing it. Even Apple and iMessage, I think, made some changes recently.
So, yeah.
So
Signal wrote about what they did different.
yeah.
Remember that?
So yeah, I think that the good companies who care about this stuff are continually making it better, and that's the important thing here.
Yep. Yeah, I think somebody left a comment on the New Oil's Mastodon where they were like, oh, I don't believe this story. But like, I do, just because they made such a big point of like, there's still limitations. Like this is more like a proof of concept or early stages. They're not just like, oh, we've got everything now. So sounds believable to me, at least. All right, this next one is just pretty interesting. Google says that 70% of exploited flaws disclosed in 2023 were 0 days. And I believe this specifically refers to Android, if I remember correctly. But between 2020 and 2022, the ratio between end days, which includes like 0 days, end days, which are fixed flaws. So I think things that they've already got to fix out and people just need to update, versus 0 days, which are the company doesn't know that that's a thing. The company didn't know about that vulnerability and they have to rush out a fix. It's being actively exploited. Remained relatively steady at 4 to 6. But in 2023, the ratio shifted to 3 to 7. Google explains that this is not due to a drop in the number of end days exploited in the wild, but rather an increase in 0-day exploitation and the improved ability of security vendors to detect it. Another significant trend was recorded regarding the time taken to exploit, TTE, a newly disclosed flaw, which has now dropped to just 5 days. For comparison, in 2018 through 2019, TTE was 63 days, and in 2021 through 2022, it was just 32 days. So basically, attackers are getting a lot faster at exploiting 0 days when they're discovered. With the TTE now falling to 5 days, strategies like network segmentation, real-time detection, and urgent patch prioritization become a lot more critical. On a related note, Google does not see a correlation between the disclosure of exploits and TTE. So just kind of recap that again. Basically, it's becoming a lot more important to do things like, again, network segmentation, like having different VLANs, making sure that you're patching your stuff on time because the time to exploit is getting so much lower. But Google is saying, like, we're not seeing that they're exploiting things faster because of the disclosure. It's just, yeah. And last stat, in 2023, 75% of exploits were made public before exploitation in the wild had started, and 25% were released after hackers were already leveraging the flaws. So I could have been wrong. Maybe that's not Android specific. Maybe that's just general research.
Yeah, so I wanted to go in. It was just general 0-day research.
I'm thinking of something else then. My bad.
Yeah, but yeah, the point still stands.
Still not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep your stuff updated. If you have, like, for network stuff specifically, if you have like a router that can do VLANs and stuff, those are super, super helpful. Put your less trusted devices on a separate VLAN. So just, be mindful of that kind of stuff.
All right, and then let me migrate over here to the next story. Microsoft said that it lost weeks of security logs for its customers' cloud products. There's not much to this one. It was just a notification sent to affected customers that Microsoft said that was caused by a bug in one of Microsoft's internal monitoring agents, which resulted in a malfunction in some of the agents when uploading log data to their internal logging platform between September 2nd and 19th. This affected things like Microsoft Entra, Sentinel, Defender for Cloud, and Purview. All stuff that probably none of you are using. It's more enterprise stuff. So yeah, kind of embarrassing for Microsoft, actually.
I feel like at this point, it's the least embarrassing thing that's happened to them in a while.
So fair. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if people heard what Nate said. He just said it was the most.
It's the least embarrassing thing that Microsoft has done in a while.
Yeah,
I mean, at least it's not like, hey, guess what? China got all our emails again.
Yeah, or recall or whatever they want to do with that kind of stuff. It's crazy.
You know, they'll keep doing recall stuff. Those are always our episodes that perform the best. They always go viral. So, like, yeah.
Maybe we should. All right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, Nate and I sometimes we can't find a highlight story, and I'll be like, we could just make something up. It'll be fine. No one would care. Just
Alternative facts.
Everyone, your device was definitely hacked. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen
Oh,
on
no.
YouTube
Yeah.
and the things that some creators will do is like, whoa,
It's okay. We don't have to issue corrections.
it's tough.
I'll stop being sarcastic. All right. We did not have any political stories this week, or again, at least none that came across my desk. So we're going to jump into the free and open source software section. And we have a lot of really interesting news this week. The first one comes from Session, who is reorganizing as a foundation. Foundations are so hot right now. Everybody's doing a foundation.
Yeah, apparently it's like the cool thing.
Yeah, all the cool kids are doing it. Why don't we do a surveillance report foundation?
Okay.
I came really close to naming the New Oil Media. I wanted it to be like the New Oil Foundation. But for the record, that was before anybody else did it. But I never did. Also, just, Isaac Asimov Foundation. Like, for me, it was just, it was for stupid reasons. But anyways, so this is the Session Technology Foundation. And as with most of these foundations, the role is to, the steward's role is not to own or control Session, but to guide and support it. However, given the current regulatory environment in Australia around privacy technology and encrypted messaging, Session's original steward, the OPTF, which was Oxen... I don't remember, I'm sorry guys, but it's Oxen, has chosen to pass on its responsibilities as the steward of the project. From now on, Session will be stewarded by a new Swiss foundation, the Session Technology Fund. So the main highlights are the GitHub repo will move to, from Oxen to the Session Technology Foundation. The developer on Apple and Play stores will be updated, so don't be surprised if you see that. Keys will change to members of the STF, and transparency reports moving forward will be published by the STF. So, honestly, I'm not a legal expert, especially in countries I've never been to, but from what I see as an outsider, Australia does look fairly hostile towards privacy lately, especially encryption. So I really hope, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how much actual legal protection this gives them, but I think it's really cool that they're trying to take that into account and trying to be proactive in defending against that. Because I know that is a concern that people have about a lot of services like Signal and Session, and even Matrix is headquartered in the UK. And, people are like, what happens if the government pressures these organizations? And we have the advantage of open source where people can verify that, the code hasn't been tampered with. And especially in the case of things like Session, where you can, they do reproducible builds, don't they? Where you can compile it yourself or whatever.
I'm not.
I don't know. Okay. But, especially for apps that allow that is a really cool protection. But it's good to see them like taking that proactivity.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. It's funny, I must have missed when you said it. But yeah, I did verify. They specifically do say that they feel like it's a better decision.
It was right up here. It's like the second one.
Given Australia's moves
Which
against
they've been like that
encryption.
for years.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not somebody who's keeping up with everything Session's doing. I just know that it's a very common criticism they used to receive, which is, hey, Australia's consistently trying to backdoor encryption. How does that impact your messenger? And I feel like that concern was always downplayed a little bit by them. Not in a bad way, not in a way that I think was malicious or anything. I just feel like it was always like, oh, well, if there's ever an issue, we'll do something about it. So just, you have to put a little bit of trust in us there. So I think them taking a step forward is really good to at least be a little bit more proactive and treat this concern a little more seriously. So I'm curious if they're doing this because of internal concerns or because of community pressure. Is kind of just questions that I'm curious about. Yeah.
Just to give credit where it's due, I feel like we could apply that to Signal as well. A lot of people criticize Signal for being in the US. And I think same with Session. The US is a little bit hostile towards privacy and encryption right now. And I think a lot of people, ourselves included, I'm not going to lie, we do kind of downplay that a little bit in the sense of like, well, it's open source. You can verify it yourself. But,
Right.
It's a tough thing though, because what are you going to do? Like pick up your whole company and move them to Switzerland? And even then, like, what's that going to do? It puts more roadblocks in the way, but there really is no perfect solution, I think.
Yeah, I think it's tough because
I don't have an answer.
I haven't seen that much. Like, I mean, I know there were some, and we covered it on the podcast, but the whole like backdoor encryption thing, I don't think has been as popular in the US as it has in places like Europe and Australia.
Fair.
I think more of the concerns I've seen about Signal being US based is, NSA, US, Amazon servers, which is like, okay, yeah, but that's kind of beyond the point of what like a good end-to-end encrypted messenger will do, which is it should assume that its servers are compromised anyway, and that's why you have end-to-end encrypted messages. So I've seen less concerns about backdooring signal encryption and more about just them having US servers and what kind of risks that can bring up for users. Versus I feel like with Session, more of the concerns were about backdooring encryption. But I agree, if they're both open source, then it should be reasonably easy to find an obvious backdoor. But we have seen backdoors in open source software before that were hidden, so.
XE
Yeah.
Yeah. And that actually, that did come up when I interviewed Key Jeffries all those years ago. I did mention that one of like, how are you going to protect against those pressures? And he pointed to the open source nature of Session as one protection. But yeah. It also, like, not to get too far off topic, but it kind of goes back to what we said last week. I think it was in the patron section about the Internet Archive being attacked. And like, they're being attacked because they're a U.S. organization and it's allegedly a pro-Palestinian organization that's attacking them. And it's like, well, you assume that everyone in a country wholeheartedly agrees with their government and everything the government does. And it's like, not necessarily. And so I feel like it's a little, I don't want to say naive, but it's a little bit presumptuous to assume that like, oh, just because Signal or anyone else is US, as soon as the NSA comes knocking, they're just going to roll over and be like, sure, whatever you want, bro. Like, not every organization is going to do that. It's very presumptuous.
Right.
So,
anyways, someone asked really quick about the quantum encryption stuff and what we think about it. We just covered the story not too long ago, but the takeaway seems to be that, yeah, quantum computers are getting more and more sophisticated, but they're not cracking anything yet. So anybody who's saying that AES 256 is compromised is frankly clout chasing. I said it.
There's no evidence to their claims.
Yeah, and
to put it diplomatically.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and for the record, if you're talking about that Chinese research article we mentioned, they pointed that out in the article. Is like at this time, quantum computers are not being rolled out in scale. Like the only ones that exist there's like a handful in the whole world, and they're like super expensive, and they're all owned by like either big tech companies or major universities with good funding, and they're not at the point where like they're just being deployed en masse to like break everybody's encryption just for fun. Like this was kind of the first research paper, at least that I've seen, where it's like, actually, this is not theoretical. Like, yes, we've taken steps to actively do that. And that, to not to harp on it, but that too, like I mentioned that, they even said in the article, like, look, these are first steps. We're not saying we can break every, message ever sent in the world. We're saying we've taken steps toward eventually getting there someday, but we haven't even fully decrypted a single message yet. We've just found some ways to start doing that. So it's like, I agree with that. I think quantum computers, like they're still a lot earlier in development than we realize sometimes in the mainstream. And that includes me. Like every time I hear from an expert who like says that same thing, I'm just like, man, I keep forgetting that we're in the early days and they're really not there yet.
Yeah.
So.
Next story is really, really quick. Docs, Proton Docs. In Proton Drive is now available on mobile for iOS and Android. Super quick story. It should already be live as far as I know. And that's really it. I'm excited for this. I do use Proton Drive for a few things, but I don't really plan to edit things on a mobile device. But I think for like people with tablets and stuff, that could be pretty cool.
Yeah. You want me to get the last one, or are you doing that?
I can take the last one too.
Up to you.
Yeah, just to keep things easy here. Very short-term thing. Well, it's not that short-term, actually. All donations in the Tor project are being matched 1-to-1 through December 31st. So, yeah, it's a good time to donate to the Tor project. I know on our ends we donate to Tor through Techlore, but I don't know, like, if you do.
I've done it once. I don't know if I'll do it again this year. Not for any particular reason other than just money is tight right now. But I might not. We'll have to see how the finances shake out. But yeah, I have before. Yeah. I like Tor. I use Tor.
Yeah.
So I was using Tor when you walked in today.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. This is a good opportunity too, where your donations mean even more. To the project.
And it'll be matched up to $300,000. So for the first $300,000 worth of donations they get, other organizations that support Tor will donate $300,000. So it'll be a total of $600,000, which is no small amount of money, in my opinion. All right, and that'll take us to our last story, which is in the Misfits section. And it says security vendors join forces to make passkeys more portable for everyone. So this particular post comes from Bitwarden, but there's several news outlets and probably other people making blog posts like this as well. The FIDO Alliance published industry standards for consumers to easily and securely transfer passkeys across platforms and password managers. So basically, passkeys are finally becoming portable. Unlike passwords, passkeys do not have a standard encoding representation, making them inherently complex for import and export. Which, not to criticize, but I feel like that should have been, I feel like we're far enough along in the technology world that should have been a thought by now of like, hey, we're going to roll out this new thing. Let's go ahead and make some standards. But I don't know, maybe that was by design because I know the big tech companies kind of headed up this effort. But anyways, to address this opportunity, developers from 1Password, Dashlane, Bitwarden, and NordPass came together in early 2023 to build a limited proof of concept for passkeys moving between applications. Feedback was overwhelmingly positive. From there, we gathered the other interested parties with whom we worked on what is now known as the Credential Exchange Protocol and format, with the goal of not only supporting passkeys, but any credential that may be in a password manager. From there, other password managers joined and formed a working alliance to build a universally accepted passkey and passkey secure transfer protocol, as well as strengthen overall passkey adoption among businesses and consumers. So hopefully whatever password manager you're on will soon support export and import. I know Proton Pass right out of the gate supported export. I'm assuming KeyPass did because it's open source. But yeah, that's always been my question is like, okay, cool. I can export out of Proton Pass. Yeah, exactly. Now what? Like, do I go to Bitwarden? Can I go to 1Password? But hopefully now that'll be the case that you can say, like, for example, if you're a longtime Bitwarden user and you're like, oh, I like this Proton Pass. Like, I know you're not a Bitwarden user, but, Henry is like, oh, I like Proton Pass. Like, now can you export your... Sorry, y'all, we're right next to the street. Now can you export your passkeys and put them into something? And hopefully now you can. So,
Yeah, that's fun.
Dude's so cool.
Yeah, I just wouldn't feel good. I can't imagine driving a car that just makes everyone's lives around them miserable.
I borrowed friends' cars like that. It's.
I would just be embarrassed.
The other one I don't understand, and no offense to people who do this, but bass. I borrowed a friend's car, and he was one of those people that had the bass just cranked, and it made me physically ill. I had to adjust his EQ, and I don't like messing with other people's cars, but it's like it was physically making me sick.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people roll down the street where you can hear their bass like 3 blocks away.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Effrey Jepstein, for your super. Oh, someone took care of it. Good. Yeah, it wasn't a honk. For people who didn't catch the whole thing, some car that had
super loud engine,
and this drove by and it triggered someone's car alarm. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the congrats, and thanks for all the super chats. We will be answering them in just a sec. That was actually our last story. So let me resettle myself here a little bit because it's a mess. We're gonna go ahead and start with
no outro.
No outro? No, we're gonna do the outro at the end.
Oh, okay. Because I wasn't sure how we're dividing this up.
Yeah. Okay. Here, live stream. So I have our Patreon up here. I'm gonna refresh the page.
So let me go ahead and here.
Okay, we got 6 questions. So
I didn't write down the summaries.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, did somebody add one?
We got more.
What is no?
And then,
you're right. I didn't see some of those.
Some of these were left 14 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way we're gonna do this, everybody, we're gonna go through patrons, then we're gonna go through XMR chat, then we're gonna go through super chats, and then we're just gonna have a fun time. We have this office rented for another hour and 10 minutes, so we're gonna answer questions for a little over an hour.
For an hour and 9 minutes, then we're just gonna rush out.
I think we can push it until it's done and then close it and be like, well, we gotta pack up and go. Give us a sec.
Right. We'll see. We'll see how things go.
I get the feeling that they're not overbooking today in this building. It seems pretty quiet. But
I think I've heard one person. But...
yeah. It's a cool space.
Yeah, no, very friendly staff.
People think the plant is lonely, by the way.
Oh. We'll put it back by the window before.
Well, people wanted you to pet it. They specifically said Nate should pet the plant.
I need to see this.
They said you should pet the plant. I don't think they said Nate.
No.
I was just trying to get you to do it. There you go. Everybody who wanted that.
It's not like I'm doing anything better.
All right.
right.
So let me move over to the questions. We're going to start from the bottom here. Rasta. This is a better question for you, I think, but we'll both answer these. If you could play on a stage with any band or musician in history, who would it be? We're going to cap your answers to 3 because I already know you're thinking of like 3.
I'm actually thinking of all the bands that get really, 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 really rowdy, and I'm like, I don't think I would want to play with them because I'd probably like lose some teeth. I don't know. Like, if you're talking about just like my band playing alongside their band, I mean, pretty much any band that I really like that would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I shared a stage with them. Like, and these aren't necessarily the same genres that I play in, but like Nine Inch Nails, The Deer Hunter, Periphery. Freaking Periphery is so good. Sorry, I was listening to a lot of Periphery last week. I don't know. It's just like any of my favorite bands. If you're talking about like share the stage with in the sense of like I would love to play in their band, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to ruin the music. I've never played a show with Silent Planet, and I really want to play with them someday. I think that's the only one I got. Oh, trust me, some people do. The people who listen to heavier music know who Silent Planet is.
You always, every time we talk about music, you mention these bands as if everyone knows what they are. No one does.
Silent Planet is a well-known band. Leave it in the comments if you know who Silent Planet is.
You can't make it up. You have to actually know. I did set it to low latency, so maybe 10-second delay-ish. Oh, damn it.
Ha!
I got one I do. There was a funny comment here. They said, nah, bruh, you gotta feel the bass in my Hellcat, bro. I thought that was funny.
2.
Garrett's
the singer. 3.
Oh.
So,
okay, but their name is Musician. You set up these bots.
Surveillance report the band. I set up the bot. Yes, I set up the bot 5 minutes before we recorded when I read that question. I'm just that good.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really have a good answer. I feel like, honestly, I would just do what I think would be the coolest to say because I don't really have like a specific person. So I would just say something like Queen because I feel like that's such a unique opportunity, especially now that like, Freddie's passed and everything. I think it would just be like, oh yeah, I got to be on a stage with Queen, and that would be like a super once in a lifetime thing.
Fair enough.
That I think everyone would think that's exclusively cool. Yeah, no matter who you are.
Metallica.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. I have a buddy who's going to see Metallica next year. His wife like surprised him with tickets, and he's like, he's not being obnoxious about it, but he won't shut up about it. And he knows, he's like, dude, it's a year away, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm just like, that's gonna be a long year, dude. But it's gonna be worth the wait, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the next one?
Legal Lucifer said, "Congrats."
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
200. Yeah.
What requests do you make of your family friends in regards to protecting and respecting your privacy? For example, do you request that no photos of you are posted to social media, that your phone number isn't saved on their phones, etc.? Yeah, honestly, for me, it's kind of the same. Like what you listed, I'm real big about please don't post my photo online. Mostly, yeah, just trying to think if there's anything else. I do try to get people to use Signal, or if they already use like Session or I've started digging into SimpleX lately. Like pretty much anything that isn't Telegram or WhatsApp. SMS is kind of my last choice. I don't know. I really don't demand too much of my friends, to be honest. I just kind of, yeah, I think those are the big things. Just if we're going to text, let's use Signal. Please don't post photos of me online, or at least ask first. So,
yeah, those are good. On my end, I normally give context first. It's really hard with dating when I was dating and like meeting new people.
Yeah, that's probably fine.
Yeah, I mean, pretty quickly, you have to start sharing information. I'm like, hey, like I just so you know, I'm not like creepy or anything, but I have like a bit of a public presence, so these are kind of the things I have to be concerned about. I'd say the big things for me, I try to do everything on my end to take away work from people I know. Mm-hmm. So I don't give like my sensitive phone numbers to anybody.
Yeah.
Which is a great step because then I don't care if they add me in their address book because that's the number they should have. For me, I don't care if it's public, whatever. I think the main thing I care about is photos, mainly for them, especially now with things like PIMI or
PIMIs, yeah.
yeah, PIMIs, it puts them in jeopardy. I don't want
Right.
people to know who my friends and family are.
Same.
And then from there, my address is the biggest thing. So when I have people come over, I go, hey, I specifically say, do not add my address to your address book.
Is that a thing people do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I just have my friends text me every 6 months and go, hey, what's your address again? I'm like, you've been here 4 times.
Maybe, yeah, I
You
don't
live
know.
5 miles away. How did you forget?
Yeah, I don't know. My friends are pretty, like, at least my close friends are super organized. So for them, like, I give them a piece of data. They're like, I don't want to ask again. I'm going to save this. I want to document this.
Okay.
And on my end, I do the same thing. So that's kind of the ironic thing is I do save their contact list to my phone and I save people's addresses so I don't have to bug them every time. The difference is I'm a lot more restrictive with who I'm sharing my contacts with, which is pretty much nobody. My contacts are practically local. So the issue is I don't want to have to trust other people to do that. So those are kind of the things I'm watching out for.
By the way, real quick, Rasta's got your back. He said never heard of Silent Planet.
Cool. Thank you, Rasta, in our signal group.
If you like metal, if you like metalcore specifically, you're missing out. If you're not into metal and screaming music, then yeah, just skip it. It's not for you. Or at least read the lyrics. Like he's an incredibly good wordsmith. But yeah.
Okay, next up. Okay, we condensed this one.
Yes, I have a summary here.
Yes, we have a summary. I will read the summary from David Johnson. One sec. Let me mute you. Okay. What steps do you take and what criteria do you use for privacy when it comes to regular banking in the US, as in checking your savings accounts? While there are several options for anonymizing payment info to merchants like privacy.com, MySudo, and Apple Pay, the landscape seems murkier when it comes to regular banking. Banks obviously have KYC, but their privacy policies allow for tons of data sharing. Do you think there are meaningful differences between privacy practices of mainstream American banks for checking and savings? A minor additional point. Oh, okay, there's 2 questions. And I got a good one for that second question. It's humorous, at least to me. But no, this is something I talk about on the Techlore side of things. Some things that are personal are going to just have to be personal, and there's not much you can do about it. And banks are one of them, especially because I've been talking to a lot of people behind the scenes about this, and it's not just me that's dealing with this issue. They are starting to KYC much stricter recently in terms of addresses. So not too long ago, I was able to use like a mailbox, like a private mailbox for a lot of things and opening a lot of accounts. Recently, that's been less of an option, and they're actually starting to shut down certain accounts that I have, and so you really have to be careful with that now. I think it's in the last year, and a lot of people think it might be because of the NPD data breach, is kind of some theories I've heard coming around. A lot of these agencies are being a lot more strict about data that's being shared because of that data breach. So my point here, and to answer your question, your personal bank is going to be privacy invasive. You're going to have to give up personal information. It's going to be KYC'd, and it's going to be really hard to get around it unless you have a lot of resources and you're able to do things like set up companies or set up second addresses that don't fully belong to you. But you're not going to be able to really set up anymore in the States a non-residential address with a bank. It's just not really possible. So if you do it, you still risk your bank account getting closed eventually. So really tough situation. I haven't actually found a bank that has a particularly better privacy policy. I don't know if Nate has seen something better, but it's just a tough situation. So do what you can, alias when you can, where it's legal and okay, and then opt out. Almost every bank has like privacy policy opt-outs that you can go through, and that's about the most you can do. Use 2FA, use privacy.com, and do everything above that as good as possible. Those are kind of all the things I have.
Yeah, I largely agree. I was pulling up real quick here on the computer so I get the title right. If you go to my website, thenewoil.org, you click on links, where it links to the blog, there's also a link that says table of contents, and there you can do a search for revisiting financial privacy. This is from May of last year, and it's really, really long, but in it I walk through where I'm like, look, I think a bank is your best choice, because basically you can put all your money in gold, but civil asset forfeiture is a thing. You can put all your money in crypto, but unless you can afford for your paycheck to half overnight, that's probably not very wise. No offense to the crypto maxis. Or you can, what was like the third thing I said? I don't remember. Oh, cash, which is the same thing as gold in the sense that like your money can just disappear. Oh, you went and found it. Yeah, it's an extremely long blog post. But and again, just read it. I've got my logic laid out there, and you don't have to agree with it, but it explains my logic in detail. And at the end of the day, banks are FDIC insured. You know, if the bank burns down, you're still going to have your money. And if you're one of those people who thinks that the dollar is going to go to zero in the next 5 years, then obviously I'm a complete idiot, and I don't know why you're listening to me. I'm not going to convince you otherwise. But yeah, like I agree with Henry. I think banks are unfortunately kind of a privacy nightmare. But at the same time, I'm not going to walk around with, I wish I had this kind of money, but I'm not going to walk around with like $100,000 in my pocket. That's completely insane. So they're kind of like your best bet. And I guess civil asset forfeiture can apply to a bank too. I just realized that, and I should throw that out there. But still, it's like, I think they're the best bet you're going to get as far as holding cash. I think your best bet is to focus on spending cash, which you already mentioned with like privacy.com, MySudo, stuff like that. There's also just cash itself. So it's kind of like, is it Seth says, use Monero for spending, use Bitcoin for holding, basically? I think I've heard him say that before. Sorry.
Sounds like something he'd say, but
If he didn't say that, I'm sorry to put words in your mouth. But I've heard some people argue that before. Like Monero is for spending because it's more private, but Bitcoin is better for holding for whatever reason. And
at the end of the day, like you have, and I know Seth does talk about this, and he just tweeted about it yesterday because over at Cake Wallet, we're releasing MWeb right now for Litecoin, which is a big deal. MWeb is like kind of a privacy layer for Litecoin to add a little bit of privacy.
Cool.
But it's not beating Monero. No one thinks that, or even Zcash. Okay. But the important thing is a lot of people use Litecoin as a way to get money in their wallets that they convert into Monero. Gotcha. So it's like it's a medium.
It helps.
Yeah. So people use Bitcoin, people use Litecoin, and that's what they have to be able to easily go through exchanges or get the money, and then they use Monero for spending, like you're saying.
Makes sense. But my point is, yeah, if you're like, I think a bank is a great place to hold your money because of the FDIC insurance. But I think if you're focused on privacy, then yes, you're going to want to use cash. You're going to want to use privacy.com. Even cryptocurrency, if you shop somewhere that accepts Monero or Bitcoin, Bitcoin is not anonymous, but I think it's a lot harder to trace than a bank account. So I certainly think that's a better option than cash from a privacy perspective. And then as far as banking goes, I would just focus on finding a bank that has whatever you value. If you're looking for credit card rewards, get a bank that offers a good credit card. If you're looking for like retirement accounts, get a bank that has great retirement accounts, or security, get a bank that has good security. Not to ramble too much, but the New Oil on our 2FA page, we link to some websites that'll tell you which websites accept 2FA and what forms of 2FA. Just go to the banking section and see what banks accept what kind. So, and again, but that's what do you prioritize? If you're like, I'm already financially independent, I want a bank that has good security, then you're going to want to check that. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. Yeah. All good stuff. And then they're very quick. It's a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. There's a part 2 question, which is, Henry, what's going on with the Nextcloud series? Now, Techlore has a wiki. Wikitubia. Techlore's a thing. That's me. Look. And I have a YouTube icon and an appearance icon. People on Wikitubia are serious. Like, they really want these things to be well done. And I got to give it to them. They did a good job. Anyway, if you go here and you Control F Nextcloud, there's a section here for Nextcloud Made Easy. In November 2021, Techlore published the first video of the Nextcloud series, Nextcloud Made Easy, with the intent of teaching users how to use Nextcloud, an open source suite where users self-host data. Unfortunately, the project hasn't been updated by Techlore due to cited time limitations. And there's a little annotation with where I said that. I thought that was cool. So anyway, yeah, it's the kind of thing where I started the project pretty much hoping to do the series. And what essentially happened is I overestimated the amount of time that would go into the project. And I should have waited to start the project because it's still something I intend to finish. But we have Go Incognito going on. We have surveillance support going on. We have our normal Techlore uploads going on. We have Techlore clips. We have surveillance support clips. And there's just too many projects, and I should have just waited to start the project. So I still intend to finish it, but it's going to take some time, just because it has to be done right. So, yeah, fun answer, but I forgot that was in the wiki, and I was like, that's in the wiki?
Good Lord.
Yeah. Is it? It's your turn.
Okay. Is it? Or did you? Yeah, you did the bank one. Yeah. Okay, whatever. We'll say it's my turn. Okay, Jared asks, although I've come far in my privacy recently, I feel it is a burden that impacts mental health. How do you guys find balance? Yeah, I mean that's a really big question. I'm a huge mental health advocate. I definitely think that's an important thing. I think a lot of people really struggle with that, and I think definitely I'm a big fan of taking care of yourself. Like, not to get all I guess this is on topic, but I'm a firm believer if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be helpful to anyone else. If you're burning out, if you're crashing, if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, you're not going to be useful to anyone around you. And I base that on personal experience. So I think step one, you say, how do you find balance? And 99% of the time, maybe you've already done this and I apologize if you have, but 99% of the time in my experience, when people ask that, they've never threat modeled. And so that's step one, is start there. Have you ever sat down and actually asked yourself, what am I trying to protect and who am I trying to protect it from? I have a page about this on The New Oil. Privacy Guides has a page about this. I think both of us link to EFF's page about this. I actually found, hold on, I'm going to open it real quick on my computer. I found an amazing video the other day. It's on my desktop. I saved it, so it should be really quick to find. Eric Murphy put out a video called Caring About Privacy Almost Ruined My Life. Yeah, somebody posted it in the patron chat, and I remember being jealous when I saw it because I'm like, it's only a 12-minute video, and he puts it so beautifully and simply and amazingly, and I'm like, God, I wish I came up with that. So like, definitely check that out too. It's
Why do you have so many blank icons?
because I don't know. Those are all like video games.
Why do Link's Tower Defense 6 have no icon on it?
None of them do. Look at that. Planet Base doesn't have it. Civilization doesn't have it. I don't know.
Is that a Steam issue?
I think so.
That's obnoxious.
I ran BleachBit one time and they just never came back. Jurassic World doesn't have it.
Oh, that bugged the hell out of me.
It does bug the crap out of me. I just try not to think about it. I try to be productive instead of staring at my desk.
Thank God GNU Cache's logo is there.
Yeah, right. And Element, and what else do I have on there that doesn't matter? Pro Tools that I haven't opened in 6 months. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, I would say honestly, like I said, 99% of the time when I get that question, it's somebody never sat down and actually threat modeled, and they're trying to do everything and trying to be super anonymous person that not even the NSA can find you. And that's just not realistic, especially over the long term. So I think definitely sit down and do a threat model and figure out what your threat model actually requires. If you've already done that, and you're not doing extra, like you really are doing everything you need to do to protect, like actually protect yourself. Again, does it matter? Like I've seen people who are like, I'm going back to Facebook because otherwise I don't get invites. And I try not to ramble, but like I've had that happen to me before. And I promise you it was not malicious. I trust this person, but I showed up to a friend's house for a party. Nobody was home. And when I texted my friend and I'm like, hey, I'm here, because I knocked on the door and nobody answered. I'm like, hey, I'm here. And she texts me back and she's like, oh crap, I canceled the party. I completely forgot to tell you, because she did everything through Facebook and just forgot to tell me. And, I've been in those situations, and some people it's more severe. Usually I have friends who are really good about like texting me and telling me, but some people it's just like, no, once I leave Facebook, I stop existing. And if you're one of those people who's like, I'm missing out on life, I'm going to go back to Facebook. Most people, that's fine to do. It's, keep the app off your phone, use it in a hardened browser, stuff like that, and you'll do okay. But my point is, if you are actually doing just the bare minimum of what you actually need to do and not what everyone in the extreme forums are telling you to do, I mean, I guess therapy maybe? Like, and I don't say that as a joke. I mean that dead serious. Like if there's either A, you're in a situation where you can't budge and you need therapy to help you deal with that, or B, you're in a situation where you don't think you can budge and you need therapy to help you like work past those hangups. But yeah, like I said, 99% of the time in my experience, it's a threat modeling thing. Somebody hasn't properly threat modeled, but if that's not working, then I don't know. Therapy would be my next option, which sucks because I know here in the US it's crazy expensive and not always covered by insurance. So yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add on this one outside of like it's a tough situation to parse through what is a legitimate versus a non-legitimate threat. Mm-hmm. And I think as humans, it's really natural for us to deal with worst case scenarios. And I think it's why we've come so far. And it might actually be part of the reason why many people are individually successful as well. To be able to like think of those worst case scenarios, over plan, put in so much work that they actually come out on top. But sometimes that comes with drawbacks, and I feel like this is one of those situations where if you go too far, and you set aside too many sacrifices, then it's going to impact you mentally in a lot of ways. So yeah, just reflect a little bit on what your threats are. Ask yourself, what are you really concerned about? And go from there and see if you can deal with the issue with yourself. It's also good, and I ask people around me all the time, friends, family, do you think that this is a legitimate threat? It's really good to get that third-party perspective from people around you. They're not therapists, but they're people that can give you an honest opinion, especially if you ask for it. They'll be like, look, realistically, you don't need to worry about this. And then hearing that is actually really validating sometimes. So those are the things I'd say, outside of what Nate said.
Yeah.
And then finally, let me make sure
Did we miss one? Oh, you're
Nope.
doing
Yep. Rasta, are y'all familiar with the DNS service like NextDNS that allows you to add your own custom filters, since NextDNS does not allow custom lists and has a preset list to select from? I don't. I actually have a Control D account right now that I'm playing with, but I haven't seen if it has that function yet. So I don't know.
I also don't know. Custom DNS block lists are something I really want to dig into, and I just haven't had the time. The best thing I can think of is probably Pi-holes. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
That's all I can think of, yeah.
I am assuming from context and what I've seen over the years that Pi-holes are exactly that. They're just custom DNS lists that you self-host. But yeah, I don't know. I always thought that was a functionality of NextDNS, is you can choose to block whatever you want. Or is he saying like a preloaded list that you make?
So NextDNS pretty much has their own lists that they get from open source projects, and it's the same list. So you'll find like all the Hagizi, whatever, however the hell you say it. One of those words that I see written all the time that I never have to speak.
Fair.
Hagizi Ultimate List or whatever. But pretty much, I know there's a couple lists on the Hagizi site that NextDNS doesn't include, for example, for whatever reason. And you can't manually use those. So you can't like import a link or anything like that. So you kind of are dependent on what NextDNS provides.
Gotcha.
I think that's what they're referring to. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, which for the record, it works for me. I don't need the custom lists, but yeah, I had, like you, based on context, Pi-holes should do that. And I'm kind of sad I don't know the answer of whether or not Control D does it. So if anyone who uses Control D can let us know in the live chat, let us know, because I'm still reviewing it and it's something I want to put out soon on the Techlore side of things.
All right. All right. I think I've got the next one, which will come from. What up?
Because this one was asked on a different.
Oh, right. We had somebody left one not that far back. Should be like the latest
Is your
episode.
Smart TV?
Yeah, it should be the latest episode, 199.
Verse? Is that it?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Somebody left one on the latest episode because that's where I said to leave them in the last post. But,
It moves.
ooh, it's a GIF. That's cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice verse.
All right, so this should be a fun one. Verse says, what would you name the securest messenger out of these? Signal, Threema, Session, or SimpleX? All right, I'm going to be pedantic here and say you said secure, not private or anonymous. So I hate to say it, but I'm going to rule out Session. I love the guys at Session, but Session does not have perfect forward secrecy, which I don't necessarily think is a ding against them. I think it's about your use case and stuff. But again, which is the most secure? Objectively, Session does not have PFS. Threema, I think, just started rolling it out. I don't know much about Threema's encryption. I've never seen anything to make me question it, but I don't know much about it. People are going to be so mad. I want to say Signal because I've heard experts all over the world praise Signal, and everybody uses it. WhatsApp uses Signal. Skype used to use Signal. I don't know if they still do. Doesn't Facebook use Signal for their encryption? Like everybody uses
Facebook
Signal.
Messenger, Google Messages, their RCS is based on Signal's encryption as well.
Right.
So
yeah, like everybody uses it for a reason, guys. But that said, full transparency, I do not know much about SimpleX's security. Now, I've heard from people I trust that SimpleX is improving privacy in the sense that they are trying to the main thing that I'm aware of is and for the record, I'm sure they're doing other stuff, but the main thing I'm aware of that I'm like, oh, that interests me, is they're trying to protect against what's the word I'm looking for? Social graphing, like where somebody who's watching your traffic can figure out who you're talking to and when and stuff like that. And I think that is really cool. But again, we're talking about security, not privacy or anonymity. So from what I understand, again, there's nothing wrong with SimpleX. I'm not trying to like ding them or anything. Signal is just the one I'm most familiar with. I would definitely trust Signal. I do trust SimpleX for now, but from a security perspective, I don't know how they compare against Signal. And I saw you doing some digging while I was talking.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. In my head, I think it was Session. I mixed up Session and SimpleX because one of the projects actually started as a direct fork of Signal, which was Session and not SimpleX.
I remember that. That's why they dropped PFS, because they had it from Signal, but it didn't play nice with the whole like decentralized node thing. So they had to drop PFS because it improved reliability.
Got it. Yeah, with SimpleX, I'm just not familiar enough and I'm not qualified enough to really speak to the encryption itself. But again, what we do, and a lot of what we do, because we can't be experts in everything, is we have people we trust and we get reliable news and sources who all seem to use. And I mean, behind the scenes, we chat with a lot of these people, and we're not chatting on SimpleX. We're chatting on Signal.
I'm testing it out.
Yeah. How many contacts do you have on SimpleX?
Like 2.
Right.
And one of them is the founder of SimpleX.
Yeah, one's the founder of SimpleX, and one is, yeah. So yeah, we can just keep it unmuted because we keep missing your comments. There's just going to be a little echo, so sorry about that. But yeah, I think my point here is that a lot of experts really trust Signal. There are people who are smarter than both of us who are auditing Signal, and it has a lot more eyes on it than SimpleX. That doesn't mean SimpleX might not be more secure though. That's just that from my angle, from the people I trust, Signal is going to be my choice. With that said, if you asked this question 6 months ago, I would have told you that there's a lot of great use cases for these apps, all of them. Signal getting usernames really like reduces the use cases of some of the other ones, but the other ones don't request a phone number, which is the big thing. So I think that's the big thing.
Or decentralization.
Or decentralization. Or with Threema, it's a different business model. And with Session, it's got its whole like kind of onion routed thing. So all of these have their own selling points. I don't see, kind of like I talked earlier about browsers, I don't see why you can't have multiple messengers on your phone.
I use all 4 of those.
Yeah, I use one, but I know, but I can have multiple and there's no issue in doing that. And I think that when we talk about Signal, it's because it's really well respected. We don't have any reason to oversell Signal over these other platforms. It's what's trusted and what's considered to be safe right now. And we think it's a really good product for the usability it offers. But you can use all of them.
And I think that's the main thing I'm waiting on with SimpleX is Signal has years of track record behind it. And SimpleX is, and it's not their fault, obviously, like they just started, everybody starts somewhere. But for me, I'm waiting to see that track record. I'm waiting to see how they hold up under the first court order, under the first, offer to buy out, things like that. So yeah, those are, again, yeah, like just to drill it home, like you said, I think there's good use cases for all of them. And I wouldn't necessarily, like I literally had a friend text me the other day and was like, hey, I think I shared this on the podcast recently. He was like, hey, you seem like the person who would know the answer to this question. Somebody's asking me to use Session. Is that safe? Is that like a scam? Like, what is it? And I'm like, no, Session's great. It's awesome. Like, here's how it compares to, because we talk over Signal. I'm like, here's how it compares to Signal. Here's what it's good at. Here's what it's not so good at. But like, yeah, I don't see any reason not to use Session with your friend. Like,
yeah. I think the big issue I see with these messenger fights online, especially when people take what we say out of context with Signal, is that we just think Signal is a wider audience demographic for its usage. Because Signal is something that I can convince my grandma to use, my friends to use, my tech savvy friends to use.
It's very simple, very feature rich.
Super simple, feature rich, guarantees really good security, and it guarantees a solid amount of privacy. It's just the best middle ground for everything. And people take that as, oh, you shouldn't use the other ones ever. And I just find that weird because that's not what we're saying at all. And so, and then the ironic part is people who are big fans of these other messengers, which is valid, we're fans of Signal, they say, you should only ever use our messenger. And it's like, no. We don't say that about Signal. And if we did, I don't think you should listen to us. That's how we went about it. So I just don't think it makes sense to only recommend one messenger because it's not better in every situation for every person. So, yeah.
I think we
beat that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so now we're going to go to XMR chat. I will refresh the page one final time, just in case anyone sent anything. They did not. So this one is from Hello, and these are Monero tips. So people sent us Monero tips. You can do it as well. Literally doesn't require really any personal information. You can put any name, and you just type a message, and you send us a little bit of Monero on xmrchat.com. This person asked, when a state claims there was an intrusion performed by hackers of other nation states, how do we know it really happened? A state official talks to the media and that's it. This could be used to push new laws to spy on people or justify starting a war. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough question. I mean, this is kind of getting into like how much do you question the news you receive. I think that a really good example of this is V for Vendetta has a scene where they either exaggerate or they make up a national event in order to push more restrictive laws. I forgot the exact scene,
I don't think it's a specific event, but I think they just ramp up the negative stuff in the news, if it's the part I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
It's like the prime minister, whoever is like,
Yeah.
I want people to remember why they need us. And yeah, I think I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, so in terms of like, I don't have a good answer to this. There's no way for you to ever know. It's who you trust, and it's trying to rely on the information that you have accessible to you. What we encourage is getting information from reputable sources that are evidence-based, that have a long track record and a good history. And that's the most I can really recommend for a situation like this. And a lot of this stuff is cross-referenced as well with different organizations. Like, for example, Google's 0-day / like global team is probably one of the most powerful teams that kind of analyzes these situations. A lot of the breakdowns of how these state-sponsored attacks are done are actually done through Google, not from a government. And Google actually does things that they've reported on the US government doing it to other countries as well, I believe. So again, that's just one person, but there's other people that kind of cover them as well who are very reputable in the space. So it's kind of just looking at the global information available to you and making sense of it yourself. I don't have anything else to add to that.
I have a couple things to add. I think, well, first of all, you say it could be used to like justify a war. This is an old video, and obviously wars are still happening, so it's not a hard and fast rule. But and I already know some people are going to be mad as soon as I say this name. Kurzgesagt did a video.
Oh, they're great.
They're fantastic. I love Kurzgesagt.
Yeah.
They did a video. It's 10 years old. It's called "Is War Over?" And they basically make the argument that actual hot wars, which again are obviously still happening, so it's not a hard and fast rule. Yeah, it's a great video. But they make the point that actual hot wars are not very profitable. And since the world is so corporatized and globalized these days, they theorize that we're going to see less and less war and conflict moving forward because it's just not profitable. It doesn't make a lot of money. And then I was really, I think convinced is a strong word. I found it a very compelling argument. So that's why I just kind of wanted to shout that out. I think just kind of touch on what Henry said. Yeah, it's honestly, it's in my experience at least, it's very rarely a government coming forward and saying China did this, Russia did this. It's actually usually companies. It's Google is a really popular one. Mandiant, some of these other firms whose names are currently escaping me. They're the ones who come forward, and you gotta. I think it was on Darknet Diaries. I've heard it somewhere. Somebody was interviewing like one of these researchers, and they actually pointed out they're like attribution is something they take very, very seriously because they know that has consequences. If Google comes forward and they say, we think India did this. I mean, right now, India and Canada are, which is not the country I ever expected to say this in, they're kind of having a diplomatic argument because allegedly, India assassinated a couple of nationals living in Canada, like Indian nationals who lived in Canada. And Canada is like, hey, do not assassinate people on our territory. Like, that's not cool. And it's kind of like, I don't think anybody thinks they're going to go to war over it, but it's kind of raising tensions a little bit. I think they both actually expelled each other's diplomats at this point. So it's very, like, when companies come forward and they say, we think this is who's behind this, especially if it's a nation state, that's something they do a lot of research in. And there's actually a lot of companies who will go out of their way to not name somebody because they're like, we want to, not so much they want to avoid it, but it's like, we know this has consequences. We want to be 1,000% positive. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, again, I have a blog post that you can go find. It's ironically from February 29th of 2020. What's up?
You can keep talking.
Oh, okay. It's called The Question of Trust, and it kind of points out that you're always trusting someone somewhere. And I think that's a really important thing to consider. There's a meme that's like, it's already muted, if that's what you're trying to do.
Okay, cool.
There's like a meme that's like, I started it's a music meme. It's like I started making beats, but then I felt like that was like taking the easy way out. So I started making my own beats, but then I felt that was too easy. So then I started sampling my own drums, but I felt like that was cheating. So then I started, what's the word I'm looking for? I started like building my own drum kits, but then I felt like that was cheating and blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on and on. And by the time he gets to the end of it, he's like, I haven't made any music in a while, but I sure do have a lot of goats on this farm or whatever. And the whole point is just you can go down the rabbit hole pretty much infinitely. But at some point, you have to draw, like, again, not to go too deep into it, but solipsism. Are you just a head in a jar sitting on a desk? Like, you have to draw a line somewhere where you say, I trust this. I think you could play that game all day. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence out there. And I mean, obviously, every situation is going to be different. I'm not saying this could never happen, but I think it's a much more open thing than a lot of people realize. It's not just some random dude from the government gets up at a podium and says, China did this. There's a whole trail of companies and like attacks and like things leading up to it before that person gets there that you can go and verify. But then again, of course, at that point, we're getting into like, what's real news? Who do you trust? And I don't even want to touch that. That's just so annoying. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the next question is just, are there any private operating systems for my smartwatch that you can recommend? The only two I know of off the top of my head are Asteroid OS, which is Android-based, I believe, and should be compatible with your Android device. But it's got a limited selection of smartwatches that it's compatible with. And then there's whatever Pine 64 has, which are you wearing right now? There you go. Yeah, Pine Time.
Yep. Infinite Time is what I'm running.
Cool.
That's the only thing I have to add to that is EFF's Privacy Not Included lists a few smartwatches that you could look into and any like some of the more popular brands and whether or not they've had any major security incidents in the last few years. So
yeah,
I think there was one more XMR chat from like last week.
I think it was just a tip.
No, there's one after that. Bluetooth. That's it.
Oh, we didn't cover this?
No, because that was the week I forgot to post the Q&A. So we didn't have a Q&A to do this week.
Oh, okay.
It would have gone on the 199 Q&A, but I screwed up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, this last one comes from SR Fan. Considering getting Bluetooth earbuds for my Pixel phone seems like a very insecure technology, hacking risks especially. What are the risks of Bluetooth? When do you personally use it? How do you use it? And when do you not use it for privacy and security reasons? Yeah, it opens like that for some reason. I don't know why. No, you can just open it and just like expand it.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. Freaking Windows, man.
Yeah.
I really it is insecure, but I think Bluetooth is one of those things that because it's so limited in physical range, I don't think it's something most people have to worry about from a security perspective. I think the odds that some random cyber criminal are just going to be sitting in your like in the parking lot trying to hack your headphones or whatever is like super, super low. I'd be much more concerned with the privacy aspect, which is usually, I know we've mentioned several times, grocery stores are starting, or any stores really, are starting to use them to like track you as you go through the store and like where you stop, what you look at, how long you spend in each section. I'll be honest, for me, that's just not high enough in my threat model, especially because I'm one of those people that like, I just want to throw in my headphones and not think about how congested the store is. I just want to get in and out. So for me, I just kind of suck it up and deal with it. But, I mean, you could, like, when you go into the store, you could turn off all your Bluetooth devices, especially if you don't use, like, a watch or something. Just put your headphones back in your case, turn off Bluetooth on your phone and walk in. If you don't use Bluetooth at all, then, yeah, just turn it off on your phone, leave it off. I don't know. I don't have too much to add to that one. I think the security risks are low for the average person. I think the privacy risks are, if you don't need it, turn it off. If you do need it, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just awareness of it's what's most important. So if you're someone who cares about this, just be aware of the problem in the first place. And then you can take necessary measures in situations where it's important. If I'm going to like a protest or I'm going somewhere, then maybe, that's where you really want to lock that down.
That might be a good time.
Yeah. But thank you everybody on Patreon. We literally couldn't do this without people on Patreon. Thank you everybody who tips us on XMR chat. That's a way for you to just be able to tip us, support this podcast, but not have to join a recurring subscription. And reoccurring. I learned recently that recurring and reoccurring are actually two totally different words
Really?
that mean different things. Yeah.
I'm not sure I knew that reoccurring was a word.
So one of them, so recurring is it happens over and over with like the same amount of time between
Like a
it.
subscription or something?
Yes, so it's a recurring subscription. Reoccurring is just something that continually happens with no timeline. So
Not necessarily. Okay.
yeah, so us meeting in person is a reoccurring
Thing now.
but this podcast is published in a recurring fashion.
Interesting. Learned
Yeah.
something new today.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I learned that like a month ago.
Fun.
Anyway, I have a third screen that you probably haven't seen yet. Boom, the live chat. So we have the live chat here. We're going to start with the super chats because those are the people that we really want to like shout out and give you all kind of the stage here. Feel free to still leave more super chats if you want, and we'll prioritize those. And we have half an hour exactly remaining. And yeah, I pulled it up there too. So what we'll do is we'll go through the super chats, and then the way that this typically works is Nate and I will both kind of go through the live chat and pick out any good questions we see and kind of just tackle the questions in the live chat. So either leave your super chats, last call, or leave your regular chats, also a last call. And I see we got a new member. So thank you for being an SR supporter. I didn't know you could like do that in the live chat.
Right? That's cool.
Yeah, I know we do have some members, recurring members for the YouTube channel. So yeah, feel free to leave your question. Anyway, let's start with the first super chat, which is from CyberCub. Let me make sure you can see it. You can see it.
I don't know why I can't see these. Oh, because I'm on top.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Continue.
Yeah. It's quite late for me now, so I'll be dropping off and hoping to catch the VOD if available later. It will be available later. Much love to both of you and what you do. So no question there, but still wanted to shout it out, and we want to thank you for tuning in.
Kind words.
Yeah, very kind words.
Yeah, I don't see it still. I'll just rely on your screen.
Yeah. The next one, oh, really?
Yeah, scroll all the way to the top.
Oh, weird. Oh, maybe it doesn't like save it. It only goes back.
Wow.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, next one is from Christy, who said, congrats on the 200th episode. Thanks for the live event. And yeah, we want to thank you for tuning in. And this is a really fancy little, it's because it's their first time doing it. So thank you. Yeah, we already thanked you all earlier, but like it really does mean a lot to us because
It really
like,
does.
we both like I had to drive like an hour and a half. And they had to
Spent
take a
like
train.
2 hours on the public transit, which ain't too bad.
Yeah, and
Better than where I'm from.
yeah, Nate just happened to be in the same state as me, so it was just a coincidence. And
Yeah. That's
so
why
yeah.
it was so last minute.
And we had to rent an office space for like 4.5 hours, so because there was some prep. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
How did Techlore The New Oil and finally surveillance report become? How'd you folks get started? From Lionel. Should I start, or do you want me to? Or should you start?
Either or. I don't care.
Okay, I can start. Since I predate The New Oil. I
Probably.
think, right?
I think I formally started around 2018.
Oh yeah, so we did. Yeah, we started up in like 2014.
Oh, you definitely,
Yeah.
I started maybe 2017 at the earliest.
Yeah, you were still a youngling.
So young, but older than you.
Anyway, yeah, Techlore on my end started with honestly just learning things and being like, wow, there's no resource for this, so I'm just gonna make it. Like back then, I was trying to just access certain websites on my school's Wi-Fi network. And I was like, what do I do? And I learned about VPNs, and I'm like, well, there's no tutorial on an actual trusted VPN on YouTube that was genuinely free. So then I put out some guides about that, and I was like, holy crap, that got like 5,000 views in under a week.
Dang.
I'm like, what the hell? So then I kind of just started uploading different things, and before I knew it, I started reading more books and getting more into the privacy and security side of things. And that's kind of how Techlore started, and it's been almost 10 years now, which is crazy. In December, it'll be 10 years. And then so many projects have come from that, and I feel like now it's kind of become its own thing, and it kind of goes beyond privacy and security in some ways. And then surveillance support was one of the projects that I really wanted to do on the Techlore side of things. And so I started doing this weekly news show, and it slowly became a bi-weekly show to a let's just
Monthly
say
show.
let's just say it went from being a recurring show to a reoccurring.
Nice callback.
Yeah. And then I didn't know this, but Nate was hosting the same exact podcast pretty much as I was doing. He was doing a weekly news show. We were covering the same story. So then Nate sent me an email and said, hey, we're doing the same show. What if we just did it together? So then you can actually still go on the Techlore YouTube channel and watch the first like 30 or so surveillance reports that were on the Techlore channel. And then we did another, 30, 40 more on the Techlore channel before we were like, well, we can't really split finances because we can't tell how much money we're bringing in from ads on YouTube. And also when, we were using the Techlore Patreon back then, but we didn't know how many people were there for you. And then we couldn't pay you 50% because we didn't know. So we pretty much had to set up like a dedicated channel and everything for surveillance support. And that's how surveillance support came to be.
For the record, good guy Henry did all that on his own, just to throw it out there. I never made a big deal out of money, but he was like, no, you're doing the same amount of work. You should be paid fairly. So he's the one who took it on himself to like set up a separate channel and everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad. I think it's for the better. It just keeps things cleaner.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's nice. I think it's nice. I sometimes do get bummed out when I don't upload on Techlore for a couple weeks. And I'm like, man, I wish we were still uploading these podcasts on Techlore.
Feed the algorithm.
Yeah, feed the algorithm, but it's fine. I think that surveillance support is actually gaining a lot of traction lately, and its own independent traction that's completely away from Techlore, which I'm really happy to see. Some of our videos recently have been getting like dozens of thousands of views, which is just awesome. So
yeah,
I'm gonna leave it in your court to talk about the new oil.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty quick. It basically started because I started getting into privacy, and I wanted to share all this information with like friends and family. And I have very polite friends and family who basically I was kind of like, as y'all know, I talk a lot. And I was just talking to my mom one day about random stuff. And I was like, I don't understand why people don't care about this stuff. And she's like, well, speaking for myself, I do care, but I don't want to bug you all the time with like questions and things. And which I'm like, of course, like, please bug me. I don't care. But so I made a website that was like, here's everything I know about privacy that like I would want to share with my mom. And then by the time it was done, I was like, this is actually a really good, just beginner-friendly resource, or at least in my opinion, was not really good, but like, yeah, maybe other people would benefit from this. So I started sharing it around whenever I saw people on forums being like, hey, I'm new to this and I don't know where to start. And that's kind of just where it grew. And then, yeah, when lockdown hit, I was like, hey, let me, start doing a podcast because I got nothing else better to do. And I tried to be mindful of like, let me not bite off more than I can chew because someday we're all going to go back to work. And so yeah, like you said, I found out about Surveillance Report and I checked it out and I was like, man, we're doing a lot of the same stories, but politely, I'm a lot more consistent. So that's when I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, what if we team up? Like I can bring you consistency, which will help your views. I get to reach a new audience. And yeah, here we are.
Right, it's good. It's really good. I'm really happy
It
how it
worked
turned
out well.
Yeah. Yeah, people are saying there's an echo. Pretty much, we're both talking a lot right now, and our mics are close. So unless it's really, really bad, we're trying, because what's been happening is I can't constantly mute and unmute, and then we lose words. So let us know what you prefer. We might lose some words if we keep muting and unmuting, or there might be a little bit of an echo. Again, we kind of had to throw this together. So
hopefully next time we get together, we'll have more warning and we can get like a what do they call that? The Steam Pad or something from Elgato?
Steam Deck?
No, that's the gaming console. Stream Deck.
Stream Deck.
We can get like a little Stream Deck and just mute, unmute, or get better microphones or something. Well, not better, but you know what I mean. Different setup.
We got a question here from Anon. Wanted to drop by, even though it's past 10 p.m. here in Finland, the 200 episodes of SR. Which news piece or article has been the most impactful or memorable to you personally?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is, and honestly, I have a very quick answer to it. It's the Move It breach, mainly
because of the video that somebody made. Yes, I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, so there's the Move It data breach, which was pretty much like Move It. It was a software that was being used by organizations to transfer files. And it's a very basic use case, but a lot of organizations use this. And there was a huge vulnerability in Move It that pretty much led to all the files of like hundreds of organizations around the country. Thousands.
I might be remembering wrong, but it was a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people. So
big organizations.
It was an ongoing joke for surveillance support every week. We'd be like, oh, here are like the 3 Move It data breaches for this week. And then in one surveillance report, I said, what if someone did like a compilation of like all the Move It breaches we've done? and whatever they are, and like they do it to like the "I like to move it" song, and someone freaking
Someone
did
did it that week. It was like
So-
3 days later.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
yeah. I'll let you answer, and while you're answering, I'll try to find it and see if we can play it here.
I probably have to dig through our emails.
It is public.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
we referenced it in the next week that they did it, and we were like, check out the video, and then
Oh,
they got
okay.
a lot of views. Yeah,
Nice.
but
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I think just to give a short answer, I'm gonna have to go with just all the data breaches because my wife can confirm this. I basically just like every time we go anywhere and we're walking around and I see a company name, I'm just like, oh, they had a data breach. Oh, they had a data breach. Pretty sure those guys had a data breach. Because it just, for some reason, my brain just remembers like all these companies that like I know their name. They probably had a data breach if I remember their name. So I don't know. That's all I got. I don't have a lot of. There's no one specific story that sticks out.
yeah, I still want to try to find it. Give me 1 minute. I'm gonna try one more thing here, because you can search in the description of videos.
Oh, you can search the description now?
Yeah.
Yes. That's so cool. Move it.
King Julian. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can't say move it. Everything will show up.
France is trying to control websites.
Maybe. I mean, that sounds like it was about that same time.
Tudanoda.
Did we leave it in the show sources?
We did. We save a video in all of them. Okay, yeah, I give up. Anyway, we'll try to find it, and if we can find it, we'll try to include it in the sources.
It's probably in the email. We can look it
That's
up
true.
there later.
Oh, yeah, I should have just looked in the email.
We can add it later. We'll put it in the description later.
Okay, it was really funny. Let me see. What is the next? I can
Super
close
chat.
This. The next super chat is from Efrey Jepstein. Funny name. I know how you can just Google everything now. It's like having a personal librarian, but with more ads. Hello from Switzerland. There's no question there, but I appreciate the comment, and I think it's funny.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
There's a really I think it's pretty well known, but there's like a comic of like these two people sitting on the couch and it's like life before Google, and one of them's like, I just thought of a subject I'd like to know more about, and the other guy goes, that's a damn shame. It's not true, but it's still funny.
Nice. Noob oil.
I saw that.
All right. Those are all the super chats. Those are all the supporters. So now we have like 15, 20 minutes. We can just kind of go through if you...
Keep in mind, you're not getting the full thing on mine.
Yeah, so I'll start from the very top.
Okay, we'll start from the bottom. Let's see what we got here.
So you can just read out whatever good thing you find.
I mean, there's plenty of questions. Lots of great comments. Thank you guys so much. Definitely don't want to just blow past those.
Yeah, again, there's a lot. So we're going to try to pick the ones that we feel like will be like the best ones to talk about.
How could one encrypt a USB stick or external hard drive and decrypt it on iOS? That's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's a tough one. There's very limited, like VeraCrypt is normally how you would do that. There
Yeah,
is
but I don't
a
think you can
client
load
for
that.
Android, but not on iOS as far as I know. So that's tough.
Is that maybe something you can do from a Mac device?
I know Macs allow you to encrypt with like AFPS, I think. I think that's their file format.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how that would work on a flash drive. My guess is your best bet's going to be like password encrypted zip or something like that. That's probably like the avenue I'd be going down personally. Someone asked, why are we blurring the background when it's just a wall? So I tried, but we are slightly. And I don't know, it's like, what do you guys think? I think it looks better. So here it is off. Here it is on. I think
I
it
can barely even tell.
Yeah, it's subtle. I didn't set it all the way. I can turn it all the way up, and that looks crazy.
We look like we're photoshopped on
I
a
know.
green screen.
I know, but I just like it subtle because it just adds a little bit of like depth, and it makes us look nice. There's also the Stipulate
take all the
feature,
help I can
but
get.
I don't like that. That one looks bad. IMO.
I don't mind.
There's also reactions. I don't know.
Are they gonna work? Hey! Oh,
200.
I forgot to text that when I showed up. I was gonna do that to be a smart aleck, and I forgot.
Yeah.
Let's see. What OS do you all use? I think we've talked about this before. I use Cubes and Windows and Android primarily. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I use a hybrid of like Linux, Mac OS, and I have 2 phones as well with both of the major operating systems.
I mean, I have both, but I mostly use the iPhone for work, and then just if I occasionally need to test something, my daily driver is an Android.
Yeah, I mean, I think something you have to keep in mind. I don't know how much Nate does this, but at least on my end, like I'm constantly having people ask us questions all the time, and we need to be familiar with the newest tech.
Yep.
So I have
Yeah, that's
pretty
a big
much
reason why.
every operating system laying around all the time.
The only thing I'm missing is Mac.
Yeah, yeah. I have a Windows desktop at home, so that one's just set up for gaming. And when I have to figure out how something works on Windows for a video or something like that, or I need to test something on Windows, that's how I do it. So
I do wish I had another Pixel so I could test out different like graphene
having multiple Android devices
to be able to flash different OSs for that very reason.
I have like 3 Android devices at home for that. Like,
Just hoarding them all for the rest of us, huh?
sorry, that's a tough world. out there.
Apparently, apparently surviving in my home is tough for an Android device.
Yeah, my phones don't blow up overnight. So
Hey, that was an exciting night, man. You gotta keep it exciting. People are still asking questions.
yeah, whose place is that? Looks chill. Yeah, it's an office that we rented to do this live stream.
Do you guys think there's any way to change a BIOS to core boot? I mean, yeah, but it depends on the device. From a Samsung laptop, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with core boot.
As an iPhone user, what should I do to compartmentalize my personal and work life? There's no user accounts on iOS, and my work life requires me to have privacy-invasive apps downloaded on my phone. Yeah, this is one of the biggest issue with iOS. There's really no easy way to compartmentalize things. The best you can do is just have it all on the same phone or have a separate device for that. Yeah, there is no life hack. You have to work within iOS's restrictions here.
Yeah.
And those are pretty much getting 2 phones, or just sucking up the fact that it's all going to exist on the same device. Which honestly isn't a huge deal. The way that mobile phones are set up is that things are pretty well compartmentalized as is. It's really hard for apps to like share data directly between each other.
Without permission.
Without permission. But the main issue I have is like your Apple account. Like your iCloud, everything, it's so integrated into the operating system, and it can only be done with one account. That's where I think you really lose on the compartmentalization of an iPhone. There's no way to have like a business one that's set up with your business Apple account, etc. So those are kind of my issues.
Or even also just a lot of like, it frustrates me that a lot of apps nowadays, like Matrix, for example, a lot of Matrix apps don't have multi-user support.
Yeah.
So especially on iPhone, at least on Android, you can install like Shelter, multiple user profiles, and you can have different clients, different accounts. But on iOS, it's like, well, you can use Element and Fluffy Chat. And I think those are about the only 2 that are usable on iPhone.
Element X.
Oh, I forgot about
another
another
one.
I said usable. Okay, to be fair, it depends what you need out of it.
Oh yeah, that's going to trigger a lot.
Which
of things.
actually, I hear that was another question. Somebody said, "Why do you never mention Matrix as a recommended messenger?"
Yeah.
Matrix is pretty good. To be totally honest, I do like Matrix, and I think it's got a lot of promise. The main reason I'm hesitant to recommend Matrix is because, in my experience, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, like for people who actively use it a lot every day, you have to have it on at least 2 devices because it is incredibly common for me to like boot up my computer. And just, especially in encrypted, and that's the thing, you're talking about as a recommended messenger for like one-to-one communication, at which point one-to-one rooms are default end-to-end encrypted. Good job, Matrix. But the problem is they don't, like, it's so quick for like keys to not exchange. And now the person can't read your messages because they didn't, your computer wasn't on overnight or something. They didn't get the key exchange and you have to send it again. And sometimes that's not even enough. It's really, really frustrating. So like, also, I'm a big fan of messengers that do ephemeral messaging, disappearing messages, and Matrix doesn't have that. So I have nothing against Matrix. It's like we were saying earlier about other messengers in general. I have nothing against Matrix. I think it's really great. I'd actually like to go back there and set up another community someday. But as a daily driver messenger, I don't think it's the worst thing you can do, but I think it comes with some usability caveats that make me concerned for the average person. Because most people are very mobile these days. And so they're going to download, if you say download Signal, download Matrix, download Session, they're going to download it on their phone and probably nowhere else. Yeah. Most people. Some people will. And so telling people like, hey, download Element. And also, by the way, you should probably put it on your computer just in case or whatever. it's kind of inconvenient for some people. But I mean, if you and everyone you know and it works for you, great. Like, I don't have any issues with it. I just,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I fully agree. And just to add on to that, I experienced a lot of that myself. But also, Matrix requires explanation for people. I can't just tell someone, if I'm not joking, I think half the people I talk to, I just say, hey, are you on Signal? And then they get it. They're like, oh, is this it? Sometimes they'll send me a screenshot in the App Store.
What's Signal?
And I'll say, yeah, that's it. Just use that. They'll download it, and normally, but they don't message me on the prior messenger anymore. The next thing I get is a message from them on Signal, because they know it's just a phone number, or I'll just include a username when I'm like, here, just add me on Signal, here's a username. I don't have to do any explanations for them. With Matrix, I have to explain, oh, okay, so you're going to first pick a Matrix client. We can bypass that and just say, hey, get Element. They're like, oh, is Element a messenger? And it's like, well, it is, but it's running on the Matrix protocol, but it doesn't matter, just get Element, okay? But then they open it and they're gonna have to create an account, and then they're gonna have to figure, oh, so I have to pick a home server? What's that? So there's just a little bit more friction there for Matrix. And my big thing is I want my main end-to-end encrypted messenger to protect my metadata. And Matrix does not protect metadata.
Yeah.
The home server can see a lot of information between the two people. So that's not, again, I think that Matrix has amazing decentralization. I think it's super cool that you can roll your own server. There's so much power in that. But I think it's a different use case than something like Signal for me. So, and I use both every day.
Here's a quick one I want to answer. Any advice on how to improve the privacy of a carrier-locked phone? My mom got me this phone, but she did a 3-year contract. On thenewoil.org, I think right there on the front page, there is a section about mobile phones. Go ahead and check that out, because it mentions flashing a custom device as like, hey, this is an option, just FYI. But it's really focused on like changing the settings, replacing stock apps, things like that. So yeah, without being able to flash a custom OS or get a new phone, that's probably the best you're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Not to like show my own stuff, but just...
Well, if you're shilling your stuff, I'm going to show my stuff. We have an Android privacy and security guide on the Techlore channel.
Don't listen to this guy. He's a liar.
Yeah, it's good, I got to say.
I think I'm reaching the top of this.
There's so many questions.
Oh, no, wait. There's a lot more.
Is there a reason you don't suggest AdGuard Pro at the OS level, where you can block traffic as a custom certificate, so it also filters HTTPS traffic?
Does it use a custom? I have a paid version of AdGuard on my iPhone. Is it using a custom certificate? I didn't even notice.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with this exact tool and how it works.
Yeah, me
and
either.
I don't know if Nate is either. If what you say is true, though, and it's intercepting the certificate, that's always, in my eyes, going to be a little bit less secure and just transfer trust a little bit. Again, even NextDNS has this feature, and to some extent, because NextDNS, when it blocks something, you just get a random address, a random error in your web browser that's like, oh, we can't resolve this address. But you can set up NextDNS to pretty much intercept traffic and give you a fancy, like, NextDNS has blocked this page for X reason. But to do that, it arguably has to require extra permissions to your web traffic. So it's fine if you trust it. Just that's a reason why I'd be a little bit cautious to use it myself. But also, I don't have an issue with using an ad blocker in a browser that supports uBlock Origin and then using like my own DNS tool to do additional filtering from there. I think that's a good middle ground. But definitely leave why you prefer that workflow below. I'd love to hear why you enjoy it.
I just checked and I have AdGuard Premium, which I don't know if that's any different, but yeah, I think from context and explanation, I think it uses DNS-based ad blocking, or not just ad, but also trackers too. So
this is a good question here from Yusuf.
what's up?
What is your favorite distribution, and do you use Linux primary as a platform for everyday business or a second OS?
So I love these questions. I use Cubes. But my main recommendation for most people is Fedora, because I think it looks really nice. It's got really good security. I explained this on the New Oil on the desktop page. If you want to master the command line, I actually think you should go with something like Pop or Ubuntu or Mint, because there's just so much support out there. If you look up, how do I do this? How do I do XYZ? How do I learn the command line? There are so many websites that are going to teach you how to do it. But if you just want something that like, I just want a normal computer where I fire it up and it works, I think Fedora Silverblue specifically, and granted, I do need to do a lot more playing with Silverblue, but based on my limited play with it, I think it's going to give you a very out-of-the-box ready experience for most people who aren't concerned with drivers and hardcore gaming. They just want to like browse the web, send emails, watch Netflix. It's going to come with like an app store. It's going to come with pretty good security. It's going to come with way better privacy. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. But personally, I use cubes because I'm clinically insane.
Yeah.
Clinically, I shouldn't say that. That's kind of mean. I hate myself. There, we'll say that.
Yeah. Personal life, I love Fedora. It is my favorite OS. I love GNOME. I do everything on all my devices keyboard based, mobile and on desktop. So on a MacBook, I'm using Spotlight to get around everything. I hide my dock, and it's the most efficient way to get around my operating system. And that's why I love GNOME. I love macOS for production and work. I don't think many people nowadays, I'm seeing a lot more good, positive discussion around professional tools on Linux and how there needs to be room for improvement for those. I feel like 5 years ago when I was saying that, people were like, oh, what are you talking about? I edit my videos with FFmpeg and they look fine. And it's like, well, they don't look fine actually, but
Audacity is an audio tool.
yeah.
I'm going to push back on that forever.
Yeah, so I think that if the tools work for you, then fantastic. But I think it's a little bit crazy to like impose your needs onto other people. Because with all due respect, like Techlore videos on my end are like produced a lot more than some other content out there, which isn't a better or worse thing. There's just different styles of content. But when you have to do that much editing on your videos like we do, you need a good NLE. And DaVinci Resolve support for Linux is pretty bad. Not as bad as Adobe because it doesn't exist for Adobe, but DaVinci Resolve is pretty much tied to like CentOS for official support. You can use it on other distros, but keep in mind, like we pay for our software. We get official support for this stuff. And they're not going, they specifically say they will not support you if you're not using an official operating system. So I'm not using it on Linux. And even if I did, there is no H.264 support on Linux for video. So you can't export an H.264 on Linux.
Womp womp.
With womp womp. Yeah, big time. So yeah, those are kind of my picks, but you're going to like this.
Uh-oh.
Someone sent me a Cubes laptop, and it's getting here in 2 days.
Oh my God, you're just going to send me a string of complaints. That's all I'm going to hear from you for the next week. Why does it do this? It's so stupid.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm reviewing
that should be
it.
good.
It's a review unit. It's for a Linux laptop company. It's Cube certified.
Can you say who or no?
Yeah, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I don't know the name. It's not like one of the more popular ones,
okay.
but they seem like a really great little company, and they're based out of Germany. I'm pulling up my email right now.
I swear to God, if it says Nitro Key, I'm going to laugh.
No, it's not. I do know them. Let me see here.
Got to sort through 50 offers.
Yeah, it's been a day, and not even a day, and my email's at 31.
Jeez.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Nova Custom.
Nova Custom. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to check them out because I already want to start thinking about what I want out of my next Cubes laptop.
Yeah. I'm excited. It looks like they're sending me a really nice machine. It's got like an i7 processor.
See, that'll
in
help
it.
a lot because my main thing is my machine is like, it's literally like a 2012 ThinkPad.
Yeah.
And so the CPU is what's holding me back right now. It's bottlenecking so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
So-
I mean, it has an i7. It's going. I don't know if I read it
Does it have
correctly. It looks like it's 48 gigs of RAM, which is insane, but it makes sense because Cubes is probably really RAM heavy,
It's
given
hungry.
it all.
I've got 16 and it's still.
That's probably
It can
why
use a
they
little
did
more.
that. Yeah.
Does it have a GPU? Dedicated GPU?
The one that they configured for me, you can do it with I think a 4070 or 4060, but the one they configured for me uses integrated graphics for
okay.
Intel.
I was going to be curious how the GPU pass-through is. I've heard conflicting things.
Yeah, I've heard the same. The only thing I'm not happy about, and I really pushed for it, I think we went back and forth for an extra 3 emails because they sent me a pre-configured one. They're like, hey, does all this look okay? And I said, yes, but I don't want the 16-inch model. I want the 14-inch model. I don't like big devices. All my devices are like 15 or lower. I think 16-inch devices just seem too big to me. Looking at your...
I think it's a 17.
Oh, that's... I don't think that's 17.
No?
I think it's a 16.
I'll measure it when I get back.
You can
to my
measure it, yeah. But
I like it except when I travel. It's a little much.
yeah.
But the rest of the time, it's fine.
Yeah. But anyway, apparently the 14-inch model was not cube certified because of some pixel density stuff, and the 16-inch is. So they were like, we don't really want to send you the 14-inch one if you're going to be testing cubes on it. And I'm like, that's totally fair. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. The only thing I just don't understand people who like daily drive Windows, unless there's like, because unless there's a specific professional tool you use that restricts you to Windows, or it's gaming. But if you're just using Windows for gaming, I don't know why you can't dual boot or use like a separate device.
Those are the only things I use it for, is editing videos and gaming.
Exactly. So those are the only use cases for Windows I can
Which is
think
also
of.
why I bring it when I travel, because I'm like, oh, I can edit while I'm in the hotel room or on the plane or whatever. So
Yeah. And I know you were making fun of like hating yourself for cubes. For me, like if like professional tools are what's holding me back, I wouldn't hate myself and use Windows. I would use Mac OS. I think Mac OS is like nicer to use than Windows personally. As someone who used to hate Mac OS and finally gave it a chance.
but the games
Exactly. But
that don't have thumbnails.
That's so fair. That don't have thumbnails, correct. So for context, Nate's desktop on his, we don't have a way to show it really, but there's just white blank thumbnails on like all his apps. And I think that's insane. That's why you really hate yourself.
It is weird. I don't know why it is. I'm telling you, I ran BleachBit one time and they went away, and I was like, oh, okay, they'll probably repopulate when I reboot, and they just never did. And I just don't care enough to do anything about it.
Yeah. Also, can we get a group good luck for Leonel, who's updating to Android 15 as they type
Christ.
this?
Yeah, no kidding. Those .0 updates are intense.
Yeah.
One thing I saw real quick that I just wanted to clarify, saying complete anonymity is unachievable is misleading. I'm pretty sure I said this, but just in case I didn't, I said over the long term. And maybe I should have added in all areas of life. Like, you can definitely be anonymous for short amounts of time or in specific areas of your life. I don't think that's unrealistic, but I think the people who are trying to be anonymous all the time from everybody constantly, I got to be honest, I don't think that's possible. You still got to pay taxes. You still got to, I mean, I guess you don't have to, that's on you, but I recommend it. You still have to go to work. You still have to like be involved in your life. You have to go see the doctor. Like, I just don't think it's sustainable long-term in all areas of your life. So I don't know. I wanted to address that. Like, I'm not trying to say you can never be anonymous. You definitely can. And especially the more niche your area of anonymity, the more possible it is. But yeah, that's what I meant when I said that.
Couple questions I'm seeing here really quick, just spitballing. We're already a minute over, but we're going to see how much we can push this maybe anyway. Question, do you keep your crypto on both desktop and mobile or just a desktop wallet? This, I know people will say I'm biased, and I totally am because I work for Cake Wallet. I'm doing their marketing, but like I try my best to like speak my honest thoughts on things on other projects because I'm going to just be transparent. I don't love Cake Wallet on desktop, so I don't use it on desktop. I use it on my mobile phone, and that's what I've been using for the last half decade, well before I worked for them. So I like Cake Wallet, but there's other wallets out there. There's Monero, that's just a Monero only wallet.
I've always wondered how to pronounce that.
Yeah, I think it's
I
Monero.
immediately knew who you were talking about.
Yeah, they're great. Great wallet, Monero only. But those are kind of the only wallets I think I would probably use on my end. But yeah, I keep it mobile only just to keep it safe. But I keep all my seeds and stuff saved in my password manager. So
that's what I do too. That's actually what I did when my Pixel exploded. I just put Cake Wallet back on my other phone, and yeah, I have the block height, the seeds, and like whatever other information I need to restore. And I mean, at this point, it takes like several hours of letting it run to sync up, but yeah, it works. I should probably start doing like weekly backups or even monthly backups.
Yeah.
In case that happens again.
Someone asked, what are your thoughts on new Brave Search Premium? Are either of you subscribing? I haven't heard of this, for the record. The only reason I wanted to touch on this is I'm actually reviewing Kaji right now. Like, I recorded the video last night, and Jordan's working on it on the Techlore side of things. And it's... I'm going to give you my takeaway for Kaji and why I'm going to give a similar takeaway for Brave Search. If you're comparing Google...
Is this the premium question?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're comparing Google to Kaji, but which, for the record, Kaji says 300 searches a month is a lot for the $5 a month plan. It is not. That's 10 searches a day. I do more than 10 searches a day. I think most people do more than 10 searches a day.
Yeah, especially when I'm editing and I'm trying to find like screenshots
Exactly.
and memes and articles. I can run through that in about an hour.
Kaji directly says on their site that you're in the top 1% of users if you're using more than the 300 a month plan. And I'd love to see if that's actually backed up, because it's either really surprising or just untrue to me. Anyway, so where I'm going with this is realistically you have to get Kaji's $10 a month plan. If you're comparing Google for free versus Kaji at $10 a month, the selling points for Kaji are it's privacy respecting, it's more focused because it doesn't have ads, and it's from a more ethical company than maybe Google is. So those are kind of the three like selling points. And I think $10 a month is really valuable for those things, especially the focus. You can't really put like time on the amount of like energy you have to go through going through like sponsored Google posts and stuff like that. My counterpoint is free search engines like DuckDuckGo, Brave Search, Start Page, Enter, any of the other ones, deal with the privacy concerns, and they're from more ethical companies. And they tend to be more focused than Google for free. So I think Kaji compared to Google makes sense. Kaji compared to the other options makes a lot less sense to me. So I don't think I'd pay for a search engine, and Brave Search falls into the same bucket for me. It's just hard to justify paying for a search engine when there's good free options out there. That's my take. I don't know.
No, I don't really have anything to add.
Okay,
I agree. Someone says, should I try Cubes OS on a laptop that is not officially supported? My first couple Cubes machines were not officially supported. They do have, it's kind of hard to find, but look up the Cubes hardware compatibility list. Just make sure you pay attention because Windows laptops, their hardware is constantly changing. But you'd be surprised how many laptops are listed on there with your specific configuration. They'll tell you like what works, what doesn't. In my experience, even if it is supported, it can still sometimes take a little bit of work to get it installed. But that could be a good resource.
Somebody said both hosts in the same room.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the second time we've done it.
Do you know anything? Sorry, go ahead.
When we're done, you'll be able to like watch this after it's done being live. We explained the whole thing at the beginning, the whole story, and yeah.
Do you know anything about this? Somebody's asking about a Aegis secure key. What's the difference in use case between a USB device with Veracrypt encryption and an Aegis secure key?
Oh, no, I do. Okay, I was working with
haven't heard
a
of that.
client for my coaching once. I think what it is, you can find it on Amazon. It's pretty much one of those security keys.
Like a hardware key?
No, not a hardware key. It's a USB flash drive that comes like pre-encrypted, kind of like what you would do with Veracrypt. I think that's what they're referring to. Aegis has like one with like, I think it's got like a numpad on one of them. For
like the only key kind of? Well, I guess that's a different use case.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway,
I'll have to look that up.
yeah, and here, Aegis key, just to verify this. Yeah, see, it's a secure key. It's like a flash drive with like buttons on it.
$1,000?
Yeah, they're super expensive. And
What?
it uses hardware-based encryption. Pretty much my thoughts on this are you can achieve a lot of the same security from my understanding with just Veracrypt and a regular flash drive, and just the value alone is a lot better.
That's insane.
Here, I can actually show this screen. I don't know why I'm not showing it. There. So here's what we're talking about. Again, just from a value perspective, I think you can do better than this. I haven't actually dug into, because it has some like hardware-based encryption. I don't know if that might give some security advantages over just using Veracrypt, but I think the main target for like encrypting a flash drive is in the event that like you drop your flash drive somewhere and you lose it. And I don't think that like most people are going to be able to break through Veracrypt on a flash drive.
Is this just like an encrypted hard drive, basically?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Buy a Nitro key. I mean, I don't think they go up to 2 terabytes,
But I did a review on the Nitro key storage. It's the same thing. You can set up an encrypted partition. Again, I don't think they go up to 2 terabytes, so I guess at that point, yeah. But I mean, to be fair, I see how it would solve the issue of like, what if you plug it into a computer that doesn't have Veracrypt? But even then, yeah, you could have a USB drive that has, or you could have a USB drive that has a portable version of Veracrypt and then the encrypted container. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I feel like the price is really, I mean, I guess it says like 130 to 1,000. So I guess if you get one of the cheaper ones, it might be worth it. But
Yeah. And again,
crazy.
there's a lot of sophisticated features on this. There's like
Okay.
user-forced enrollment, there's data recovery pins.
okay, so this is definitely more for like enterprise,
Enterprise,
government. Okay, interesting.
But
I'll poke around that a little
yeah,
bit later.
poke around. I don't think it's a bad product. I just think for like the average consumer, you're probably better off just using Veracrypt or something like that, just from a value perspective. But that client did end up buying this. I gave them the same spiel I just gave all of you, and they said I still want to give it a shot, and I think they enjoyed it. So yeah.
Somebody says, I heard that Grub has been broken for Windows Dual Boot recently. I think they fixed that. That was a bug. I mean, depending on who you ask, some people think it was malicious, but I believe them. I think it was a bug. Are you considering posting on Blue Sky? As that there's now over 12 million users. The New Oil does cross post to Blue Sky. You can find that on our website, but I'm not really. It's a bridge. I'm not really directly active there. I posted there for probably like 6 months or so, and I didn't really seem to be gaining a lot of traction. So like I like posting there just to reach people with the privacy stuff. But to me, man, personal opinion, and obviously everybody's mileage may vary, because like for example, I love Mastodon, but some people are just like, oh, Mastodon's dead. Like, so obviously everybody has a different experience, and if you love Blue Sky, good for you, more power to you. But number one, I still don't understand what it does that Mastodon doesn't do, with maybe one exception. And number two, for me personally, it seemed like it was a lot of people talking into the void and nobody actually responding. Like I saw a lot of people posting and I didn't see a lot of people replying. And it didn't seem like there was a lot of interaction there. To me, it felt like it was just a bunch of people standing there and talking. And again, I don't know how else to describe it. Just everybody standing on a soapbox talking and nobody's listening to anybody else. And I don't even mean that in the sense of like political discourse, like division, like, you know, nobody's listening to each other. I just mean like literally, like I never saw anybody replying. I never saw any actual discussions happening. I don't know. For me, it wasn't for me. So I cross post there, but I'm not really like active there.
Yeah, we just talked about this internally on the Techlore side of things.
Did you?
We used to pay for Buffer, which is like a social media management tool. So I can log into like all 10 social media accounts that we have.
Yeah, those
and
kind of
then
things.
we can schedule things for the next week and choose which accounts. It's a really nice tool, and it makes it possible to manage all these platforms. But Buffer has the most exploitive pricing model I've ever seen, where it charges per connection. So let me break this down. Buffer's free plan does everything for free for 3 accounts. So let's say Twitter, Mastodon, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
Boom, 3 accounts for free. You add a 4th one, $26 a month.
That's a little high.
Yeah, because now what they do is they charge per channel that you connect. So once you go to 4, you have to start upgrading to their new plan, and they charge $6 for every account you connect. So it'd actually be $24, not $26. But then you add another one, and that's $30 a month. You add another one, it's $36 a month. So when you're like us and we have like 10 different accounts, it ends up literally being $60 a month. Makes no sense. But I found a tool that does exactly the same thing. The problem with a lot of these services that are cheaper is they don't support Mastodon or Blue Sky or more of these niche
I had
providers.
a hard time finding one that does Blue Sky, yeah.
Social BU. I just set them up like this week. And it supports everything. It supports Mastodon, it supports Blue Sky. And it gives us, I think, 12 channels for $20 a month, which is a lot more compelling. So actually we're doing posts now on Blue Sky as of like 2 days ago on the Techlore side of things.
Nice.
Just because of that tool.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much time it takes to like cross post things like daily to different platforms when you have 10 different accounts. And it's just hard to justify the cost. It takes a lot of management.
Well, what I'm using right now is free. It's called BridgieFed.
Because you're just cross posting.
Yeah. I'm not actually, but I'm supposed to be able to see any responses. So theoretically, if somebody on Blue Sky responds to a post, I should see it on the Mastodon side.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So
Yeah. Nice. We should probably start wrapping it up.
yeah, I think I saw one more. Oh, we'll make this the last one. Daryl says, with email aliases and custom domains, what approach you use when giving family and friends an email address? I don't have a lot of family and friends email me, and I think that was before I got into aliasing, so a lot of them already have my my real Proton email. But I mean, at that point, you could just make up anything you want. But I would say probably just give it. At least, I mean, I don't know how everybody else's family is, but with my family, I would just say give everybody one email address. Like have an email address that's just for family and friends, because in my experience, they're all just gonna like mass email everybody anyways. Like, hey, here's Christmas plans this year or whatever. So it's gonna end up in everybody anyways. So you may as well just this is my name at mydomain.com.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's great.
All right. Yeah, we should wrap up. We're already like 15 minutes over.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to make these people too mad.
Yeah.
They're being very nice.
Yeah, they're being really nice to us.
right.
Well, I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's been such a fun journey to be here. 200 episodes is a lot. That's how many? 56 weeks in a year?
52.
52.
So that's
Thank you.
a little over 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Or yeah, almost 4 years.
It is
No.
4 years when you consider the weeks we missed.
I mean, it's more than that.
But yeah, it's been a long time coming. We want to really thank you all for being here to celebrate with us. It means a lot to have a community that's here to support us on the journey. Literally, all these questions are possible because of you. So you're in a lot of ways creating this content for us, which is just incredible. And yeah, I just can't say enough things. If you enjoy what we're doing and you want us to be around for another 200 episodes, the best way to do that's on Patreon right now. So patreon.com/surveillancepod really is the best way, because that's how we can keep this growing. It's how we can keep it sustainable. We don't fund this. Like, I don't pour Techlore money into this, or Nate doesn't pour the New Oil money into this. Like, this is its own project that we're trying to build up as its own thing. So what you guys do really helps build this up. And yeah, if you don't like Patreon, we're on LibrePay, we're on XMR Chat, and we also apparently support memberships on YouTube. So that's another way to get back. Yeah. And that's all I got. Do you have anything to kind of say?
See, now all I can think of is there's a podcast I listen to that's military history, that at the end of every single episode, he'll say something completely out of pocket that related to the episode, but sounds totally like, that's all we got. And until next time, don't invade Russia in the winter, or like, something that only makes sense if you listen to the episode. And I'm like, I wish I had something like that now.
Don't misuse the words recurring and reoccurring.
Ah, there we go. That's it. Yes. Thank you all.
Yeah, it's important.